Dan Patterson.
Here.
Cal Ellis.
Here.
Frank Mock.
Here.
And Ray Morrissey.
Here.
Next on our agenda, we do have public comment. Items at this time are, you're limited to 3 minutes. Council is prohibited from replying.
First individual is Paul Hartman.
Hi, Paul Hartman. I live on 195 Gardner Road in West Kingston. I did write a letter and sent it in. I don't know if I have access to it or not, but I'll basically narrow it down to just a few things. I was at the last meeting, and I know that you've opened the road and you did it for emergency access, and that I completely understand. But the people who have chose to live in Richmond, West Kingston, Exeter, those surrounding communities in that area, we don't choose to live there for the convenience factor. We all know whether or not we have children, or it's 20 minutes to the grocery store. There are some inconveniences. Emergency situations are not one of them, but I am asking that you consider putting a gate up. I have been doing my own research, and I've come up with quite a few different companies local. There's one right here in Cranston, Rhode Island, that can put up an emergency gate that can be activated just by a siren. And if there is no siren, it can be, even if you wanted to let the bus go through, where you can activate it with a remote control, like opening up your garage door. And in the case of an emergency where you lose electricity, the gate will go straight up and stay up until the emergency and the electricity has been restored. So we do have some options that I really hope that you guys will consider. Because I've sat here in the past and you guys have talked about if we could save just one life, it would be worth it. So my question to you is, how much is a life worth? Is it worth $25,000, $100,000, $1 million? These gates are a whole lot less than that. And I think that it will decrease the amount of through traffic that we have seen since you've opened it up. I have stood at the end of my driveway after driving down the street, no cars coming, pulled into my driveway and turned around to get out, and a big black truck went flying by to the point where I literally gasped because it scared the crap out of me, because he had to have been doing 50. And that's not just one time, multiple times. The Hope Valley fire truck, an emergency ambulance went by along with another truck, had to have been doing 40. So whether they were coming from Shady Valley and cutting through to get back down to Hope Valley, I don't know. But I really, really, truly hope that you consider not just the Exeter town folk, because I own property in Exeter, and my tax dollars go to help fund things that you do. I would like to say that I truly hope that you take into consideration the fact that it's the safety of all public, not just the town in which you represent. So, thank you.
Next up is Bessie Shaw.
Hi, I'm Bessie Shaw. I live at 272 Gardner Road. I am on the Richmond side of the road, and I have been there for 20 years. And since you have opened the street, traffic has not really increased, but it is fast. It is a straight shot. The gravel has not slowed them down. And since then, tar and crushed rock has been laid on the newly paved part of the road, and that has not slowed traffic either. It's a straight shot down the hill, right out up to James Trail, and people do not go slow. They are driving too fast. And anybody walking a pet or a child on that street is at risk, because they are not paying attention. And they obviously are not considerate enough to be realizing that that's a neighborhood. And they should be considering the speed that they're traveling at. And if I remember correctly, at one of the meetings, you had said you were going to post signs on the gravel part about heavy truck traffic. And we have seen a trash disposal truck come from that end and not go back. It is cut through. There's other large vehicles that are cutting through. So if you're not going to post the signs, then we're going to continue to see that as well. And hopefully if you do post the signs, they observe them. Thank you.
Number 3 is Dorothy Brizio.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brazil. I live at 345 Gardner Road on the Exeter side. And traffic has quadrupled, and they are doing 50 miles an hour. And I've walked my grandson and my dogs, and I've gotten spewed with rocks. I can't tell you how many people I have told to please slow down, and they just keep flying. I understand the need to have it open for the emergency traffic, I understand that completely, but I was under the assumption that it was gonna be a small road. It's double the road of Kingston Road, of Town Hall Road, of Ten Rod Road. It's double the size of it. And I really believe that we need to have some kind of gate, and I think her suggestion to have a gate where it's, you have a device that opens it and shuts it would greatly help. And I think that we were misled for the whole reason of why this road was gonna be open. Thank you.
Number 4 is Robert, I can't read the last name, Sigtori, I believe it is.
Slater. I believe it's Slater.
Yeah.
Chicken wrap.
Slater, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I'm on the Exeter Fire Department, and I'm one of the closest members there. I live right on the end of Gardner Road. I lived up on the corner of Gardner and Hog House my whole life. Without the road open, it takes me 25 minutes to get around, 15, 20 minutes to get around. With it open, you can be there in seconds. And in regards to electric gates and everything, they're mechanical. They're gonna break. You're not gonna be able to get through.
Next is Maggie Barrett.
Hi, I'm Mae Barrett. I live on South Road, and thank you to my fellow landowners who came to this meeting. I want to bring to light to the council and to my fellow Exeter residents an incident that happened on our residence on August 26th. We were hosting a private party for friends of ours who were getting remarried. Again, just a private party, when we received an uninvited visit from Mr. McGovern, who decided to drive down our driveway, yell at friends of ours' kids who were trying to help people to park, and then proceeded to cite some ordinances to my husband. I was not there. Unfortunately, we have looked at all of the citations that Mr. McGovern had cited to us, and we're reasonable people. We tried to call him, and again, there's nothing in the town ordinances governing how you should conduct yourself in a private party on your residence. So this was quite unexpected. Mr. McGovern again was yelling at everyone. My husband tried to talk to him. He would not talk to him. And then we're reasonable people. We tried to reach out to Mr. McGovern. We left voicemail for him, but he claimed that he did not. I did not leave a voicemail. But everyone knows that if you have a cell phone these days, you do have access to your voicemail that will then tell you what the phone number is that called you. So I have not received a phone call back from Mr. McGovern. And also, we sent an email detailing everything that Mr. McGovern threw at us, including that we needed the fire marshal to inspect the tent that we set up in our backyard. I have not heard of any such ordinance, again, governing a private residence, private party. So this was quite unexpected.
Ma'am, that law just changed a year ago.
Okay.
It used to be under a certain size, 10
Yes.
square footage. I personally have gone out to residentials and do it. As of this year,
As of
they're
this
no
year?
longer doing it.
They're no longer doing it, so fine,
Private
yeah.
events, but if it's your tent on your property, you assume the liability of the tent.
Correct. And again, so
Right,
this
it's true.
changed a year ago, so Mr. McGovern should have been aware of that, correct?
He's
So
not-
I
He's not
believe
responsible for fire marshal law.
then he should not have spouted that at us, correct? I believe that big government is coming to Exeter in the form of people who are elected officials thinking that they can drive down your driveway at any moment, tell you what you can do and cannot do, all right, and have no explanation, no justification, and will not answer our emails. So what can we do about it? I think something should be done. And the very least, I think that someone in the town council should champion the email that we sent prior to the being put on the agenda. Thank you. Nonetheless, my point is made.
Number 6 is Bob Sanderson.
Yeah, I'm Bob Sanderson, and I live at 280 Gardner Road. About 2 years ago, I had a problem with a radial arm saw down in my basement while I was doing some work. I pulled the saw over my arm and almost cut it off. So I went upstairs, I was home alone, got the phone, put some paper towels on the arm, pushed it against my back stairs and called 911. 40 minutes later, the rescue got there, and in the meantime, my neighbor had come over because someone had called him and heard there was a problem there and they were having trouble finding the house. And so my neighbor, Rick Smith, came over and put a tourniquet on my arm. And luckily I didn't pass out by the time the rescue did get there, but they were at the other end of Gardner Road. They had to come back around. They went by my house and then came back and finally came up. And thank God I got to the hospital in time and I didn't bleed out, thanks to Rick. But this idea of putting a gate, and whoever just said that that gate will be broken that when you need to get through it, is probably right. That road should be through. It takes way too long to get around to the other side with a gate if it's broken, if it's not working. And, you know, I hear the problem with the people driving too fast down the roads, but that's a police problem. That's not, put a gate up to stop people from driving fast. You don't do that with a gate, you do it with the police. So I think that road should be through. You never want somebody to have a problem like I had and not be able to get to the hospital. And if it was your child or your neighbor's child or yourself, I think you'll think about this meeting and wonder why you went for the gate when it's not really necessary. Thank you.
Next is Ricky Smith.
287 Gardner Road, Exeter side. I spoke to the bus company, and they've also spoke to Charahoe and said that since the road's been open, it's been a hell of a lot better on time. It's a hell of a lot safer than coming around Peter Potts. They don't have the cluster in the morning like they used to have with 3 buses, and it's just working out great. Charahoe's, Richmond side, they're using the bus. On the top side, the bottom side, they're coming down through. They have been spoken to and said the same thing, that everything's working out great, it's safer, and it doesn't take as much to get back and forth. Saving the taxpayers money and so forth, fuel, everything, all around.
Robert Davidson.
281 Gardner Road, Exeter. I've been to a few of these meetings. You people talked about putting an emergency road through. You did way more than that. It's only a matter of time before they decide that it's a maintenance issue, it's going to be paved. I'm sure that's already in the plans or back lines. So when I moved down there for quality of life, dead-end road, perfect place to live. That's all changed now. I've got dirt bikes, I've got delivery trucks going 50 miles an hour, UPS, you name it. Up and down the road all day long. My house is pretty close to the road. As far as going around, 25 minutes. I don't know where you're going. You go down Route 2 and down 138 or what, but I've driven down there for 23 years. It has never taken me 25 minutes to go around. So, I don't know. I think you all have your mind made up anyway. It's kind of like the state of URI with your DEM building. You know, they're shoving it down your throat, you don't like it. That's what happened to us. So, that's how I feel. So, whatever that's worth, I'm sure nothing.
Last person for public comment is Senator Elaine Morgan.
Thank you. I'm representing some of the people who live in that area, and I've been getting emails and phone calls because I guess the traffic going through it are driving very fast. I know it is a time saver, but there has to be some more police presence, and it is just a matter of time before they pave it. And I just...
You're over capacity, this shouldn't be happening.
They're right here, that's why I'm standing here. Okay.
Speaking on behalf of those residents who have called me who are complaining that there should be a gate, it should be used, speed bumps, or I thought it was supposed to be open just for emergency access. Emergency go through for the police and the fire. So that's what they thought, and they feel like they've been deceived.
But you know, all of Gardner Road is awful. They speed past the nursing home, they speed, it's crazy. It's a lot of young kids.
Yes. You got people out here that want to address the Gardner Road issue and they can't get in. It's not yet. You open the door for them so they can hear us go. Number one, we're gonna
Further down the agenda.
further down the agenda.
So this is, we're right now when you in.
But it's for public comment. It's public comment only right now.
They're only in public comment right now.
I'll leave so someone else can come home.
Why they're here.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
That's why some of the people that are here from the other. Sorry.
Can I just?
Gardner Road.
Public comments on the issue.
All I want to do is add to my comment, one thing, that's it, one thing. Can I add one thing to my comment? About the gate that I suggested. It's called the breakaway gate. You can literally, if there's any issue whatsoever, a vehicle can drive into it. Obviously, it needs to be an emergency vehicle, but any vehicle can drive into it and it's designed to
This is
open
a
up.
violation of the Open
swing
Meetings
let
Act.
people
Everybody
drive
has a right to hear
and then
what's
can be
going on in this
replaced back
room.
into place.
Our next item is acknowledgements and announcements. For the period of the transfer of stickers for September 1st, 2017.
You have a town meeting, nobody can hear what's going on.
Available to purchase the town hall's office, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
gotta be
Saturdays,
shut your light.
September 9th, Sunday, September 10th, and Saturday, September 16th, 7:30. Next, we do have the approval of the agenda order. I would like to make a motion that we move public hearings, item number 8, 8A, to after, before the consent agenda. That is my motion to move that.
One second motion.
Under discussion, seems like people are here for farm. Number 8A is proposed amendments to the Exeter Code of Ordinances, zoning, Appendix A, Article 4, supplementary regulations, Section 4.9, Exeter Farm and Forest Accessory Business Overlay.
People have a right Mr. President, if it's in order, I'll move to open the public hearing.
People have a right to be inside that meeting. Whoever wants to go in, go in. High school.
Okay. So motion to accept the agenda, the agenda as amended.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Need a microphone, we can't hear back here.
Need him to translate.
Can I come in?
I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing for the proposed amendment to the Exeter Code of Ordinances, zoning, Appendix A, Article 4, supplementary regulations, Section 4-9, Exeter Farm and Forest Accessory Overlay.
We can't hear!
The crowd, please be quiet.
Everybody wants
There-
to
You
know.
should
Call this meeting canceled now.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Reschedule it so that whole town can hear it at one shot, sir.
That's what we're doing.
That
I'll
would be
now
very
make a
good.
motion that we continue the public hearing. Okay, thank you. All right. At this time, I'll now make a motion that we continue the public hearing to September 26th at 7 p.m. at the Metcalf School located on Gooseneck Hill Road.
Second, the motion.
Is there any discussion on moving the meeting? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good. All right. The motion passes.
Was that for the farm?
For the farm, correct. Also, on our,
So, we've moved the meeting to September 26th. They've continued the public hearing
On the farm issue.
on the farm issue, on the farm forest ordinance. It's been continued to September 26th. myself, I'm the town planner, Ashley Sweet, myself and Scott Millar from GrowSmart, who have worked with the planning board and worked with the advisory group that have drafted this ordinance, would like to hold a workshop in the interim to meet with any interested party to try to hear your concerns.
We will.
I will. Just hang on and let me speak, and I'll come outside and make the same announcement, if you can just let me finish. We'd like to hold a workshop in the interim between now and the public hearing, and I'd like to get everybody's contact information and send you an announcement of when that workshop will be. We're aiming for September 19th, but I need to secure the room first to do that. If you can give me your contact information, I can send out a notice of when that workshop will take place. If you write down an email, a phone number, whatever, obviously email works best, so I can send out a mass email to everyone. I can make a notification to everyone of when that workshop can take place. We want to hear your concerns. We want to make adjustments to the ordinance as best we can to work with everybody.
How about if we get rid of the ordinance?
Yeah, just shut it down. Agreed. Shut it down. Get rid of the council. Get rid of it. Yeah, we love the current ordinance for the last 20-something years.
Yeah.
It's fine.
At this time, I'm calling.
Let's get rid of green growth, green safe. All in favor?
I'll fill out my information for you.
So if you're interested in working with us, then we'd like to have your contact
Want to know what the
information.
hell's going on?
Yes, also, if you can't,
I'll tell you.
excuse me.
Hey, listen up.
Hey, listen up! If you don't shut up, I'm gonna start throwing people out of here, you hear me?
If you can't make the scheduled workshop, I am in my office on Mondays and Thursdays. I will make myself available to meet with you individually, to sit down with you and go over what your concerns are, to talk to you about what's in the ordinance. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of misunderstanding. I'm happy to meet with anyone. I spent 2.5 hours with Our Kids Farm. I'll do it with anyone else that has any problems. If you can't make the workshop, I will meet with you individually.
What hours are you there on the?
I am here Mondays and Thursdays from 9 to 4. I will meet with you if you can't make the workshop meeting. I will meet with you if you can make the workshop meeting. That's fine. Call me and email me and make an appointment to come see me.
I would suggest we find a better way of contacting people, because there are many people with fairly good-sized tracts of land who are totally unaware because of the limits of announcement that this was happening. And I think that a broader coverage of making people aware of your workshop would be worthwhile.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yes.
Second.
There's another point of information. The reason for continuing the hearing doesn't mean you shouldn't come to a hearing as well. We'll listen. You speak to us, tell us your concerns. The reason we've chosen a larger venue is so that this doesn't happen. This is ordinarily enough room for our business. So just remember, the workshop, they're making it themselves available, but the hearing is still going to be for you to speak to your concerns to us. We listen, we'll react, not even then necessarily. But just understand, the point is to give everybody a chance to be heard.
But as this lady just said, I own 100 acres in Exeter. I had to hear from a Hopkins resident today to come to this meeting.
Well, I'm not a town crier, so.
Okay.
Well, who is?
Well, I don't have time when we're working on the property to be.
I understand.
Hey guys.
I got a farm.
Guys, this would be pretty simple. Is there a communication that goes out? Where is it posted so people can know?
There is a website. There's a
That's all I had to say. It's
Exeter
pretty
website.
simple.
So anybody wants to know what's happening, we go online to the addresses. What do we?
Town of Exeter.
Yeah, you Google Town of Exeter, it comes up.
How often is that updated?
I don't know, this information was there, was it not? Yeah, the information.
There we go. Thank you. That's all you have to say.
If we only had a local press, if we only had a local, believe me, I wish we did. people would know this stuff. Remember when Journal Bulletin had a South County edition, and there was an office, and then we got the news. I missed that. We need it.
So, excuse me, the notices for the hearing are posted, but not the ordinance. You want a copy of that, you come here to get it. And everybody that is listed on the farm force that gets the exemptions, they've applied through the assessor's office, was notified. That was the only way we could get as many people as we could, and we were hoping for word of mouth. But we did do that.
But for the Farm Bureau, we never got a notice.
Sorry?
I'm registered with the Farm Bureau,
The
but I never.
Farm Bureau. We took the list to the tax assessor here, because that's the list I have access to.
No, you have to be under
Getting an exemption from the assessor.
If you listed with the assessor. Town website.
There were 100 on there, Farm Bureau didn't send out anything.
Feel that they are more included in what's going on.
Kevin, you're pretty savvy with social media. I'm sure we could figure out a way to have a social media site for the town, right?
It could be managed, someone has to be managing it. And who does their locally post, that kind of stuff.
I mean, it's probably good stuff.
Just go shop there.
Okay, well, all right, well, that's it, folks, for the town council's discussion on the farm, forest, and open space tonight. As you know,
No
as you know.
appreciation that clause.
Right.
No
Farm forest ordinance, excuse me. That's the end of the official discussion, so if there are folks only here for that, we'll see you again on the 26th. Thank you for your patience and for your understanding. We're sorry that we have such a small town council meeting room, but that's why we have to continue things. You've been patient and courteous, and we appreciate that. See you in about 3 weeks.
No, they're
Thanks. How about yourself?
Are we doing any better with the illegal?
Right.
How are we
So how's it looking? Anybody kick it yet? We're looking up from here on.
They have not gone through the issue of
So that's just a public comment. So people just say what they want. Council can't respond, and that's very.
I missed all those comments. Get in.
They're in the minutes, so you get them for the next one in the minutes. But what's going to happen is
It's right in our back property. property.
There's a,
Right in connection, yes.
so it'll be right on this page. So you go through all this, hopefully it's fast, so you don't have to wait.
So they're gonna tell us what's gonna happen with it?
Well, they're gonna discuss it.
I have an idea that is, and people will be able to talk.
They should be able to, yeah.
And what's your other trees program? Okay, you're part of that.
I was gonna be a little more. We don't have a manager on there. This is the only town government. That's why we're at disadvantage sometimes.
Siren? Or a sensor.
Over here.
Anybody like a copy of the agenda?
I didn't.
Everybody all set?
And you know, if he had
I say it's the whole problem.
Bang, bang.
I'll make a motion that we resume the town council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We continue. So next is the consent agenda. We did have a Reynolds Trust voucher. Okay. Any reports anybody would like to pull? Communications. Dan, I'll start with you. What communications? All right. Calvin.
14, 18, 30, 34. I think 34, some of which I think we're going to address, if not all of them, during the course of the meeting.
Frank, any communications? Nothing tonight, Mr. President. Thank you. And Ray, any communications?
I should be all set.
All right, I have none as well. They're very full. All right. Approval of minutes. Okay. We do have to remove the August 7th minutes and the 21st. It was here. All right. And then they're not set on ready yet. So, all right. Motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The regular meeting, August 7th minutes, not ready at this time. And then I'll make a motion that we approve the special council meetings for the 21st.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstain. Motion carries. Moving to number 7, vacancies and appointments. Personnel Board, Conservation, Economic Development are still. Any resignations this month? No. Moving on to appointments. Number 1, Juvenile Hearing Board for the unexpired term ending March 2019. Term beginning date of appointment. We do have a letter regarding that. At this time, he said he should have somebody for the next meeting. Number 2, the Reynolds Charitable Trust Committee member, term expiring June 2017. We did have one person who was looking to be reappointed.
Well, I would move the reappointment of A. Barrett.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For the Reynolds Trust, Charitable Trust Committee member, term expiring July 2017. We do not have a motion for that.
Move to continue the post.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And last, the animal shelter attendant.
Well, Mr. President, I note that we do have a recommendation from our Director of Public Works in that regard, which I think you probably have all seen. I have it in here, I'm trying to find it.
The recommendation is for Christy Burdick.
Right.
Is there a motion on the table to appoint?
Thanks, yeah. Well, I move to appoint, certainly for discussion, please.
Is there a second? All right, for discussion?
My question only, Steve, is that you're recommending, you'd had a conversation with the young lady, because it seems from her experience that she's downsizing, if you will.
Yeah, she's had 20 years experience with town of Cranston, city of Cranston.
But she understands.
Yeah, she basically, I believe, was her children born, she stepped back, and now her kids are older, going to, stage bus stops themselves. She feels like she wants to go back to work. She's available every day, even weekends.
So you make that recommendation, obviously having spoken with her. Appreciate that.
Any further discussion? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any expiring terms, Lynn? All right. Moving on to number 8B, the public hearing. Is there, for the proposed amendments to the Exeter Code of Ordinances, zoning, Appendix A, medical marijuana, Article TBD, Section TBD, and zoning, Appendix A, Article 2, zoning, district, use regulations, Sections 2.4.1, use category, number 72, compassion center, number 3, medical marijuana, cultivation center, number 74, non-residential cooperative cultivation, number 75, residential cooperative cultivation, number 76, patient cultivation, number 77, reserved marijuana cultivation center, number 78, reserved marijuana store. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I move that we open the public hearing on this recommended amendment to change, amendments to our Exeter Code of Ordinances.
Second? Is there any council who wishes to speak on this amendment?
Well, I would, I think on behalf of all of us, that this has come to us as a recommendation from the planning board, who spent some time reviewing several proposals. That's my understanding. And I think there are folks from the planning board here tonight who might speak to that, or else they've all left.
He left.
Everybody's gone.
Mike left.
Okay, but the point is that this has been under review for some time, and there were, I think, several models, and the planning board has brought this to our attention. So we're moving it forward for public hearing, considering it's an issue that warrants some attention. At least some of us think so. And the planning board does as well, they wouldn't have made a recommendation to us. Do I speak more or less for all of them when I say that?
I agree. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's where we're at.
Somebody else from the council wants to speak on proposed amendments? Dan?
I got a few issues with it, and going through it. You'll see it under compassion centers. Marijuana cultivation center. And it calls for.
What page is that, Steve?
It's in all different sections here. She's got different classifications of the types of cameras would be. Number 7, the use of pesticides, herbicides, and/or fungicides are prohibited. Anybody that has any experience growing any kind of, I know these aren't greenhouses, these are totally enclosed. You can't grow a crop in an enclosed area like that without, especially fungicides with the moisture, because if you go back to the other page, on page 6 or 7, area used for growing shall have proper ventilation to mitigate the risk of mold. I haven't grown weed yet, so, but I know certain crops, you do have a problem with mold. And on herbicides, I know when you fire off a greenhouse in February, about 9 days later, that little aphids hatch, and it takes me about 14 days to get rid of them because they hatch every 6 days. So, I mean, there's some issues here that kind of, number one, to contradict themselves, but, I mean, to sit there and regulate someone and tell them they can't do that, it's not gonna work. I mean, they do have beneficial insects, but once again, I haven't grown weeds, so I don't know if beneficial insects work there. So, the other problem I had with it, if you go back into the zoning matrix on the last page, RU4, compassion center, no. Medical marijuana cultivation center, no. Or special use permit, I'm sorry. Non-residential cooperative cultivation, no. Residential cooperative cultivation, yes. Patient cultivation, yes. This is gonna go right back to the Exeter Farm and Forest Accessory Business Overlay, because my piece of property is 50 acres. Every single farm in Exeter is zoned RU4, so large parcels of land where you could put these and no one would know they are there, when you look at zoning matrix, can't do it. So, there's my issues. There was one other issue with wastewater in here, control the flow of wastewater, and I brought this up with Ashley in a work session. The way it's worded, it's vague. You can come in and tell me in my greenhouse, I want a wastewater plant, so that was another issue. That's all I got to say.
Right? Right?
I agree with a lot of Dan's concerns. My concern has been the same ever since we first brought this up, is that I think it needs more study in the planning board situation. This is an issue that the state has really tried to push forward, I think, and municipalities are trying to catch up with whatever it is that the state wants to put forth. But I'm not sure that the town of Exeter is ready for this move just yet. I think it requires a lot more thoughtful consideration, and even just beyond the actual agricultural aspect of how there's contradictions in what has been said to the proposal versus what goes on with cultivation centers across the country that are obviously working and supposedly profitable. So I'm not sure, because I haven't attended the planning board meetings, exactly what that discussion has been, but I think it would be to the best interest of the town and the council to maybe have a work session with the planning board about that, to discuss those issues that we're concerned about. And if we're gonna move forward with this, I don't think there's any reason to reinvent the wheel. We have to find somewhere where it works and works well, instead of trying to write a whole another set of amendments to an ordinance that may not be necessary, so.
They can use some input from Danny.
May I just speak to?
What are you saying?
May I just-
They can use input from Danny, people like Danny.
You might, like I said, you might want to talk to someone that is operating one of these and see how they're doing it.
That's what I said. There's plenty of places.
Like I said, they're growing in a totally enclosed building. I'm in a greenhouse, I can open doors, you know, but a lot of it crosses over, so.
Now, what were you gonna say?
Well, what I was gonna say is that I wish that, and I hope that there were members of the planning board who could be here for this hearing, so that the very, and I don't know why, I don't know what happened, but apparently they're gone, and they should be here to answer the questions that he raised. I mean, I look, because I can't speak to Dan's experience for any of it, including what he says he doesn't do, which I don't think he does. But the point is here that there were a lot of all the definitions reference state statute. So when I saw that, I assumed the planning board was going to explain that much of what's in here is generated by statute. But Dan suggests otherwise, and that's a valid question, and I would like that answer, and I'm sorry it isn't, they can't speak to it.
So that's my suggestion,
Well, you
if they
make
can
points.
find one of these that are up and operating, and
But-
go in and see how they're controlling the insect, how they're controlling mold. Because like I said, it's like it contradicts itself. You can't use a fungicide, but then it says you have to control mold, so.
Well, and unfortunately, without anybody being here, we don't know whether there was any exploration or examination of any of those operations. I would have thought, I know they worked on this for a while, but Dan, I understand your point, and I wish we could ask that question here during the hearing.
In fairness to Mike, he was here.
No, I know he was.
Yeah, and he got caught up in all this thing.
No, I realize that there were people here, thank you, and that's why I hope they realize that they come back, but anyway, we're at that point tonight where they have to move forward on this particular item. We need to stop it, send it back, which we
Council
could
is
do.
willing to continue the public hearing to next month and have the planning board come to be able to speak with us regarding these issues.
That makes sense to me, because we need the answers.
Is there? Okay, so I made a motion that we continue the public hearing to the October meeting. Do you want to have the date? October 2nd, at 7 p.m. at the Exeter Town Hall. There's a second.
Before you close it down, did anyone sign up, Kevin?
Nobody signed up for it.
So, okay.
Does this overlap the farming ordinances that trying to pass?
Could.
This is farming, 101, right?
Danny had mentioned it.
Yeah.
And that's a valid point that needs to be
Right,
addressed,
if
for sure.
we adopt some farming ordinance, and then just, maybe we waste all the time on this, we can't even demonstrate.
Anyway,
All right, so any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the public entertainment license application, Dealer Dolan, on behalf of Friends of Exeter Animals, P.O. Box 302, Exeter, Rhode Island, to hold a classic car show, including craft and food vendors, Saturday, September 16th, 2017, rain gate, Sunday, September 17th, 2017, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Exeter Animal Shelter, 169 South County Trail, Exeter, Rhode Island. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
so moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Somebody wants to. All right. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
So 6th annual then.
Right.
The only question, I know in the past they posted liability insurance for the town.
Yeah, they do.
We already have that.
And
For this,
Just for the purposes of the public hearing, since you've come this far, we got people sitting here, is there any, you said, Steve, this is the sixth year, there may be reference to that, but, I mean, I think for the record, it's important to show that.
It's a big fundraiser for the shelter.
And it has been
Very successful.
successful.
They're pretty sure they contact everybody that has to buy an awful. Food people for state paperwork, I believe he's been taken care of.
Well, let me read this. I do, thank you for clarifying 6 years. Here it is in front of us. We have a letter. Let me just read it as part of the public hearing. It comes from Joyce Bastian, who's the president of the Friends of Exeter Animals. And she says, I'm writing for the Friends. This isn't much for the public's information as anything that I want to read this. Writing for the Friends of Exeter Animals, we're holding our 6th annual Cool Cars for Cats and Canines on September 16th. We ought to let people know that they're not just workers, they're clever as well. We would like to request a waiver, and this is the point of her letter, asking for a waiver of the application fee, because she goes on to say that the annual car show gives positive public attention to the Exeter Animal Shelter. Over 75 cars and trucks participated last year, and many of the spectators toured the shelter to view the pets, resulting in adoptions. Pet food donations for the shelter are received at the entrance, and we appreciate your consideration. I thought that should be read for the record of the hearing, so that you know where they're coming from. And it's not, they just don't go there to have a good time. They go there to expose, hopefully adopt, and get some
We end up with quite a few adoptions based on
Please?
that event. Based on that event, the shelter does receive quite a few adoptions.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I commend the Friends for their initiative to make this happen. And really thank them for a lot of what they do.
Any comment, no comments from the council?
Do you need a separate motion for the waiver?
After, yeah, after we close public hearing.
Okay.
We could all do it at once.
All right.
Granted, they all three. What's the fees that are owed, Lynn?
So advertising and certified mailing fees are owed in the amount of $131.22. We haven't received the postage report yet. Cal mentioned that they asked for a waiver of the fee. And they still have to submit just a copy of the state form for the food trucks to file. So I'm that they send that back.
Would a motion to close the public hearing at this point be in order? If so, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion on the floor? So,
I move to approve the application with the understanding that we waive the fees associated with the application and subject to submission of what's required by the state.
I'll second it.
just a point of clarification, Cal, on your motion. Are you requesting to waive all fees or simply the application fee?
Well, my motion was to waive all fees, but if the council wants to discuss that motion, we should, I guess. No, mine was.
Yeah. So your motion is
What was the amount, please, Lynn, of the fees?
It's $131.22 for all that, certified mailing to add in the application.
And the application fee.
The application fee is $15.
Personally, if it's under discussion, I'd like to waive more than the 15, but. that's
Your motion
me.
was to waive all, so.
Yes, it
that's
was. And I stand by that motion at this point.
Is there any discussion on the council? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We have second. So waiving all fees.
Good luck, ladies, and Steve.
Thank you.
Good luck with it. What's the, did we announce the date here, which is?
Oh, yes. 16th.
Well, I think we did.
The
but let's
16th and
get-
17th.
16th,
And the 17th is the rain day.
16th is Saturday, 17th of Saturdays are rain. It
Sunday.
rains. It'll be Sunday. Good luck.
Moving on, number 9, new business, personnel issues, labor negotiations, nothing to report. Number B, Department of Emergency Management awarding a bid, emergency backup generator.
We did not receive
received a bid. We received one, but it was advertised. So Stefan had an obligation, was supposed to be here, was running late, and he asked that this be continued. Continue to post this.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we continue to post.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number C, Department of Public Works, awarding a bid, heating and cooling upgrades to the town clerk's office building.
For the record, Mr. President, the request for proposals was put out and did have, I believe, one response.
For Steve-O's Heating and Air Conditioning Ltd., the amount of $7,250.
And we have a recommendation here from the DPW director, and he recommends that we award that to Restivos. So I move that we do that. I move that we award the bid to Restivos Heating and Air Conditioning.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Go ahead. I'll second the discussion.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item D, Department of Public Works, awarding a bid for asphalt paving. We do have a letter from Director of Public Works. I don't know what's going on. Viewed all bids and makes a recommendation that we award to Cardi Corporation.
I've got some questions for Steve. Steve, when this was put out today, this product, surface course type, is that Rhode Island DOT specs?
Type 1I.
The same with concrete base course that follows, has to follow all DOT specs?
Says it right in the specification.
Okay. It's, the original bid that we wanted to extend is, I know it's here somewhere.
$61.25.
$61.25 a ton was the one we wanted to extend, and when they came back in, surface course was $58.50. And binder course was $58 a ton.
Correct.
So we saved almost $15,000 by putting it out to bid.
You'll save, actually, on this year's job, probably $3,000. It's based on how much tons you put down, not the bid price.
What roads do you plan on doing this year?
Little Sweets is on the list for this year.
So that's surface coat.
No, it's binder.
Binder? Okay.
You only have one surface job in the next 3 years, which would be Yawgoo Valley.
How many tons do you plan to put down?
4,400.
How much?
4,400. Actually, sorry, 4,105.
In the past, when they've done paving for us, have they supplied you with, what's the name of this piece of paper? HMA asphalt content graduation and Marshall all electrics test report.
All companies will provide it upon request.
They're supposed to provide it for every 300 tons of asphalt. You've never received that?
No. I've never requested that. We haven't had a problem with their mix to require a request.
Getting to that, if you don't know if you had a problem with the mix, you know if it's spec without that paperwork.
The experience is the asphalt, and applying this asphalt, you know exactly when it comes out of the truck if it's gonna reach the specifications. All right, I've seen it, rejected loads, and have been.
I'm raising these questions because when you were paving last year, someone called me because they couldn't get down the road, and I went up there, and all I could smell was burnt motor oil. And burnt motor oil signifies that they put a lot of DAP in the mix, recycled asphalt product. I also have, this is right available right off the DOT's webpage. It has their mixes, and they only have one mix where they're allowed 25% RAP. Everything else is 0. So, I'm gonna make a motion to award the bid to Cardi. Find my motion. Chairman, I made a copy so you don't have to write. I'm gonna make a motion to award Cardi Corp the asphalt contract 2017, 2018 fiscal year with the following conditions. Number one, Cardi Corp to furnish HMA asphalt content, radiation, and Marshall volumetric test reports for every 300 tons of asphalt mix manufactured for proposed paving in the town of Exeter, as per Rhode Island DOT standards. Number two, town of Exeter will retain a third-party testing agency to perform on-site collection of asphalt during paving operations. Test borings may also be performed. All product collected will be tested to ensure all asphalt meets RIDOT specifications. Maximum expenditure by the town to perform testing not to exceed $4,500. Number three, the town of Exeter reserves the right to perform spot checks on the weights of both loaded and empty trucks. DPW director will notify DPW council liaison 72 hours before paving operations commence, so he can be in attendance while paving operations occur. In the event council liaison is unavailable, he shall name another council person to take his place. In the event trucks are to be weighed, weighing of vehicles will be performed at Drybridge Sand and Stone located on Drybridge Road in North Kingston, Rhode Island. Number four, town of Exeter will retain 10% of all payment to Cardi Corp until all test reports are received from Cardi Corp and third-party testing labs showing asphalt product meets RIDOT specifications. Anybody want a copy?
Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second it for discussion.
Any discussion on the motion?
I have a question, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
So if a third party is going to test this product, do we have to put that out to bid, or, I mean, I don't know how many.
When I checked the town charter, $5,000, 3 phone bids. I did get one quote from Geyser Engineering, which is basically they've been in business for 60 years. That's the price list. And he forgot to quote one thing. I sent him back an email. I got this link today. Did you make that call? I did a Google search. There is one other company now in business in Rhode Island that does this. This company's been the only one who's done it for years around here.
So there's only one company that does it?
There's a second one now that is in business doing it. When I Googled it, because after looking at the charter, and I saw how it was written, you have to have 3 telephone, recorded telephone bids, it says, in the charter bids.
3 written over 75 years. 3 recorded over 1,000.
So we would have to,
If you can get a third bid.
so
It's a specialized field.
if this motion passes, Jim, just where it has that we'd be expending funds, we have to make a second motion then to make them to go out to bid.
If you want to do that immediately, I don't know when this is going to be in contract.
The way I read the charter, up to 5,000, it said 3 recorded telephone bids.
Correct.
I would think 3 is pretty good.
Well, no, I think Kevin's question was basically whether or not we need to make that contingency now and then go out to bid on the services, or I suppose to solicit the 3 telephone.
Right.
Dan, how quickly?
I talked to them Thursday and he got a quote to me today. He was on vacation all weekend, so.
Well, obviously, if it's it has to be prior to it.
Okay. Go ahead, you have a question?
Your thoughts on this?
It's on,
There's a lot of disagreement
that
for
money's
me,
not in
so-
the budget, other than it's not in the budget. It wasn't budgeted. Currently.
Not
It's not
just on
factored
this,
in.
but on the testing too?
Right, the testing is not factored in. We haven't had a problem to require such a thing. When we did the landfill project, for instance, it was a requirement to test the materials. We did that, okay? Because it was a requirement under the guidelines of the state of Rhode Island and the federal. So that's why that was in the bid. We did that. We haven't had a cause to test asphalt Alright,
There's two ways they can test. You can core it, or you can do the sample when they're doing the paving operations.
yeah, I understand how the tests are done.
Yeah. And you just said you were saving $3,000.
Approximately.
Price on this one project.
On
So
one project.
we're looking at 1,500 to come up with, not to exceed 4,500. When you look at this one, I told him when he gave me this estimate figure of 1 mile of road, that's basically what you're doing.
More,
More?
11,000 change feet.
Okay. This is for borings. He's supposed to get back to me with sampling as they do it. He's $1,200 a day for the test borings, and he's calling for 8 and 1 mile at $200 a piece. So you're $3,800 to do one mile of road with borings. I imagine it's cheaper doing the sampling out of the truck.
Usually.
Because he didn't put it in the quote. He told me over the phone they charge $375 a day for the technician.
One of the largest tests that are done, even by DOT, is the nuclear density test.
That's a compaction test.
That's correct. That's the one of the
They
biggest.
don't have that machine out there either when they're paving.
DOT has, it's one test, it's tested.
That's one of the tests they would do when they're
That's
doing,
correct.
when they're doing pouring, they test compaction.
I have a question, on number 3, which is that that you would notify the council meetings on 72 hours before paving. How soon do you know before paving? Is this something you schedule ahead of time?
24 hours is the normal, when I'll know when they're coming, and they'll come to key. They'll call me, we're gonna be there to key tomorrow. We tell them when we're gonna be ready, they put us on the schedule, we get to it, weather permitting, everything gets canceled, or on, or off. Normally I get a 24-hour notice from the company.
That's the other thing I missed. They need 48 hours notice to send a technician out. So you'd have to make that part of the, amend that to where Hardcore has to give us 72 hours notice.
But, so my question then goes back to the initial bid. We didn't put that in our,
It's not in our
it's
specification.
not in the specification,
But
so.
you're calling for a Rhode Island DOT spec.
Mix. So it's like 1I mix, that's right.
But my question, but going back to the, if we're changing the specifications and then putting further
can't-
restrictions on.
We can't change specifications at this point.
Right, not changing the specifications, but if we're putting restrictions on the bidders without telling them ahead of time, they may have changed their price if they're giving, so then we can't require them to tell us 72 hours. They can say, you did not ask that in your initial, when you put out the bid. And they would be correct,
Unless they agree to it.
unless they agree to it, which they may or may not. That puts restrictions on them. If I was important, if I was Cardi, I would say, no, you didn't put that out in your specs. And he could then hold us in default of contract if we go ahead with this. If we change our specs after we award the contract and say, all right, this is what we want now,
Put this in the letter with the following conditions. If it's not acceptable, go to the second bid.
So,
but
It's not unreasonable to get asked for notice so you can sign up with an inspector.
oh, I agree, it's not unreasonable, but it wasn't a part of our bid, our specs that we put out there. Like, if you go out to bid on something, especially if it's a service contract, you do have to list out when agents, like, with Kingstown, we say we need service on our server, we put out a call, we expect a call back in 24 hours. There's a cost to that, and they build it into the contract when they give us the bid. Likewise with them, if we're saying, we're just looking for a concrete and you can pour it, we're not giving them that we want you on call, or you to give us a notification. That would be something that would go into a bid spec.
Can I ask a question, please, of Steve? Steve, you told us, I think, before, when we discussed the prior bid, that you've used Cardi for some time or several.
A lot of the town work is done by Cardi Corporation.
Have you had a reason to question the product that they've put down?
No, the product is delivered, it's applied properly, it's rolled properly, it's stood up longer than other companies' products that we have in town.
Well, I'm sorry, so do you mean you have used some other
Other
companies to
companies,
do
yes.
paving?
Yes, we have.
And
All four of these companies have done work in this town.
And I'm guessing, in your opinion, you don't think these rates additional rates are necessary for you to do the work?
It's unnecessary red tape and expense. If we had a problem, I would agree, 100%. And it would be in the specifications if it was a problem. We have not had a problem with their mix.
What, I just want to use attention, go ahead, I'm sorry, but we need to talk. You done talking?
Pretty much.
So, is your motive accountability? So more accountability to the
I'm making sure
vendor?
the taxpayer in this town is getting what they're paying for. Like I
Okay.
said, when I was on a job last year and I smelled burnt motor oil, that tells me there's a lot of rap in that mix. And they're supposed to abide by the Rhode Island DOT mixer, the specifications. All we're doing is testing it to ensure we're getting what we're paying for.
And plus you're not refusing their bid, you agreed to the bid, but you do want more accountability in the product we receive.
I want them to follow Rhode Island DOT specifications,
Mhm.
like the bid form said.
May I ask a couple more questions, Mr. President?
Sure.
With that being said, Steve, why do you think they dropped their price $3 a ton when we rebid it? Because they initially came in at 61, right?
They were
Now they're
they were
58.
awarded 61 last spring.
Okay.
Right. And then by
So
all
if
the
we
other bids, before we go out to bid for anything, I call other towns, I talk to other directors, I get, what was your recent bid?
Mhm.
And all the recent bids have been 65, 63, 66, up to 75. So when we were gonna extend at 61, that was a good price, based on all other current bids at the time. So you only can make a decision by the data you have in front of you at the time. So they obviously don't wanna lose us as a customer. That obviously one thing, business sense. D'Amba Construction was $60. They've never been that low, ever. But D'Amba Construction must be hungry. That's what leads you to believe in the business sense of it. All right? That's just, they're the second bidder. Is $60 a ton. And that's lower than what we had last year, and it was unexpected price. They haven't bid that low that I can find in years. So the numbers just mean that the companies are hungrier. That's all it tells you. Because D'Amba just got a huge bid with the state of Rhode Island for 95. Whoa. Both sides, north and southbound. So, but yet they still bid at $60. So all that tells me is they want more business.
But it's still to our advantage, because we save $3 a ton, right?
The taxpayer saves money.
Right,
They say,
right.
like, if we had cause, I would agree. There's been no cause.
So I guess my other question is the confusion between what was indicated as far as what the distance was that was going to be paved. So Dan thought that there would be a savings to the town or the taxpayer to 15,000, and you say it'll be 3,000, right?
Approximately.
So
Based on the amount of tons that you're gonna pay
I see.
on a particular project.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand.
Each road is different
Okay.
on the application. What we're doing in this application, we're using what we call base product or binder. Has a bigger stone. It's basically to level the profile of the road. All right, Whittle Sweets Road is an old oil and sand seal and stone seal road. Some sections have had a little asphalt over the years. The profile's poor. All right, so that means when you have a poor profile, you can't plow the snow off well. It means it takes more salt to melt the ice and remaining snow. We flatten the profiles from crown to gutter. It makes the snow easier to remove from the road and save the taxpayers money on snow removal operations. Then next year, we'll go in and chip seal over the top of that binder, like we've done on Liberty Road and Gardner Road and some other roads in town.
How many tons did you say you were gonna use?
4,025.
You're gonna use 4,000 tons this year?
If we can do the project, yeah. That
You're
may
sa-
also
You're
be,
saving more than $3,000. If you're using 4,000 tons, he's 61, what was the old bid, 61?
6125.
61.25, at 4,000 tons, you're saving $3.25 a ton, you're over $12,000.
That's if we do the whole project this year. That's
That's why I just
That's
asked
what- that's
you,
what's
that's why I
on
just
our
asked you to
list.
repeat that.
right, our
So
list
there's
says,
money, the money we're saving over the old bid would cover the testing at no
yes, it
cost
would.
to the
It
taxpayer.
would, yes. I know
We still have money left over.
that depends on how much tonnage we put down this year.
So I'm pretty adamant on these conditions, because like I said, something raised my antennas last year, so. And it's not costing the taxpayer any money, they're still saving money. And we gave them a bid spec for Rhode Island DOT mix, so it's never been tested, they've never given you any testing data, because you've never requested it. And I learned a lot in the last week, Stephen, so.
I got another question. For the weighing to take place at Dry Bridge, would that be a cost to the town? If we had to go to Dry Bridge and use their services, is that also?
$3. I'll pay it out of my pocket, if you do that, so.
But, all right, so is there, under a limit, we don't have to go out to bid or anything like that, Lynn? Under a limit, we don't go out to bid, it's $150, we just do it?
So what are the services, just weigh in on scale?
$3. If they even charge it, you know?
I have a question too. DPW director will notify DPW liaison 72 hours before paving operations commence, so he can be in attendance while paving operations occur. What would be the DPW council's liaison? What would he be there for? Would he be there to make sure that such and such, or I'm with the director, what would that entail?
There's some things with this contract that I'd like to discuss in executive sessions, not in an open forum, so. I was gonna bring this up for executive session anyways. And Steven's happy to sit in there if you'd like, so.
I mean, to me, if we're being told we can't get the 72-hour notice, we require that of them, that's changing the bid. I can't support it, that.
Well, the problem is, if we're gonna use a testing agency, he needs a minimum of 48 hours notice to have a technician out there. And I don't think the supplier should have a problem with a technician being out there.
Well, I don't think they'll have a problem, I think it might be with the notification, and I think
That gives your liaison at least one day to get a hold of whoever you hire as a testing agency.
But I'm saying, DPW doesn't get notified for 24 hours.
He's just gonna have to, Cardi's gonna, whoever we award it to, they're gonna have to let us know, give us a couple days notice.
So Kevin, you think we would have to go out to rebid?
Right, if we're asking of a service of somebody, in contract law, is that correct, that they're changing the specs that they have?
Well, generally, yes. As I believe Ray pointed out, though, if you present it as approved contingent on following, the party could then back out.
And asking
So,
for more
I think
notice
that's-
before you start.
At that point, you could not, I don't believe you could just simply award it to the next lowest bidder. You might have to rebid. But if Dan's suggestions are simply to assure that state law is being applied, and that's it. It's one thing, because the law is always implied in the contract anyway. But if it does add extra costs, simply because rather than, say, testing, doing our own boring after one suspects that there might be substandard materials that have been used, which is another way to do it, instead you want to do the testing as you go along. If that does add extra costs, then they would have the right, I think, to claim it.
Yeah, if they were to do the sampling during the paving operations, they go over the spreader, take a shovel full out, and stick it in the can.
If that's the case, then you probably could go forward with those kind of contingencies, but you have to be prepared that if the party objects to it and says no, then you simply have to rebid, because you could then reject all bids and.
If they object to testing it as per.
Well, it's a notification that they would be paving 72 hours.
That's not an unreasonable request, you know, it's,
Again,
if someone calls me tonight, want me on a job tomorrow, I could be on another job working, it ain't gonna happen.
Isn't the burden of, pardon me, may I ask this?
Sure.
Mr. President? Isn't the majority of the burden of expense more upon the town than it is the contractor that's providing the material? Because, I mean, we're the one who has to pay for the, we're the one that has to pay for the third party. We're the one that may have to pay for overtime for our guys.
You will
if they
pay for
assist-
overtime for our guys being traffic control. They're not,
Right.
they don't work 7 to 3.
Right.
So,
So isn't the burden of expense more upon us than it is the contractor that's providing the
yes,
material?
yes.
So I guess then part of that issue is we need to clarify exactly what the savings would be to the taxpayer. Because if the third party expenses and the expenses on payroll against the town are gonna be more than the estimate, then that's something that we have to reconsider. If it's not going to be and we can absorb it and then have additional savings on top of that, then I think it's worth it.
Jim mentioned something, and he said that if we feel that they are not up to bid, so say we feel like the road has more racking than it should, based on whatever criteria, we perform our own test and find out it is in violation, I think then now they are in breach. But I think it's, do we want to put it up front and say we're gonna expend this money to prove that they're doing it right, or do we wanna say, once they fail, then because now if they breach, we can then go after them for like, hey, you guys are gonna put a bad road down, we have a lot of recourse, at less expense, I think. Whereas if, as Steve said, if we think that everything's fine, there's no smell, there's nothing, no issues.
Right.
We don't have to spend that money. If we're doing this, we're required to spend the money. But if there is like this road looks like there's more right, I don't know if you can do it by visual or how, but if we do a test and it fails, now we put them in breach. Now we have recourse.
I mean, I agree with Steve that we haven't had an example before that proves that.
But we've never tested it.
But we've never tested it, and the state has had problems before. So
Would-
wouldn't that
would
be
we
enough,
revisit-
wouldn't that be enough of a precedent for us to be cautious?
State has an inspector on site at the facility for the materials process. That's why the state is there.
If they tell them it's ROD for state work, they're not testing it for the town of Exeter.
No, they, for
DOT
this
load.
DOT, all DOT work, they have a man on at the facility
Only
with
for
the
the,
product.
only for the loads going to
State
DOT jobs,
Correct.
which could be in a different silo. You don't know what you're getting.
Wasn't that all the controversy a couple of years ago?
Concrete.
The inspector in the vehicle sleeping?
That was on concrete.
I mean, to me, like, if we haven't had an issue.
What are you doing? I parked on the job?
Like, it's like we're spending money to prove something we suspect, but it's, I mean, to put it into the bid, I think if we have an issue that arises, then it'd be more prudent to spend money at that time.
I mean, even if Stevens doing 2,000 tons, it's still over $6,000 in savings. We do half the job, so.
Well, the original estimate was 2,500, but now you're saying it's closer to 4,000, right?
The bids put out as an estimate.
Okay.
Purpose
It's in unit bid.
is to get a unit price per ton. Because I don't know when the bids normally go out in the spring, okay, prior to budgets being approved. So I don't know the amount of money that we're gonna receive to do road work with. We only put a budget forward, if it passes, that's what we receive. Then we can work within. So not knowing how much money you have versus how many, the road job that you want to perform. We have 3 asphalt jobs currently on our 3-year plan that was approved at the financial town meeting. 2 of them are 2,000 ton jobs. 1 of them is 4,000 tons. So I would have to break that up upon how much money we have versus all the other projects that we do. So I have to you have to juggle around the projects a little according to the amount of funds we have available to spend. So between the chip seals, the crack seals, the asphalt, that's how then you balance it out in the end of the year, you're trying to go over budget, obviously, and the next year you'll finish. And then you chip and you'll crack seal again and asphalt the next project. So it's all based on how much money we receive in June at the financial meeting, so I know. The bid this year is so late, I know how much money we have, but we've already done our other projects now, so I couldn't wait on all the projects. So, now,
Essentially, it's based on your discretion, but
It
what
has
you
to
do
be.
will depend on what the savings are.
it has to be based on the bid price quantities versus the money we receive from the public versus how much money we have carried forward.
I see.
All that gets tracked, adjusted, and you pick the project that fits within that budget. And if something else comes up, we have to make other adjustments.
Well, I apologize to the council and everybody in the audience, I know we've drawn this out, but
Oh, yeah, but I have another question.
but this is a, you know,
Well, it's a big question. It's a big issue. Steve, can I ask you, please, if I could ask Steve a question about his presence when these projects are done? The asphalt laying, are you generally there
Stop
to
it then.
see that you are there? And can I just ask the issue that Dan has referenced, were you present for the, I'm not sure what the project was, but did you detect the kind of issue that he suggests about having smell that wasn't appropriate?
No, I did not see Mr. Patterson on the job. So I don't understand how he could smell something, I didn't see him there.
End of the day, at the other end of the road. So, I was only there because the guy called, they wouldn't let him go off the road.
Is there any further discussion on the motion?
my final feeling is if it's no additional expense and the savings will pay for it. And we want to make sure that the taxpayer is going to get what they deserve as far as quality of roads. I mean, everybody complains about that in town, about the quality of roads that we have in town. We want to ensure that we're getting the right material. Now, I'm not making an accusation that the director doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not making an accusation that Carty isn't giving us the right mix. But if we can work that in and it's still affordable in the savings, I don't see what the problem is, myself.
I mean, even if we're only doing 2,000 tons, we still have over 6,000 in savings, which would cover what that maximum is. But like I said, I give you a copy of that from guys. The way he priced it was, that was with core drilling. It would be cheaper with a technician. You wouldn't have that 1,200 a day. You'd have, it was 375. And they're taking the actual sand up to the lab instead of coming out with core drilling.
Maybe the motion should include that contingent upon that it can be paid for by savings.
I think we wouldn't know that until after the fact. Because we wouldn't know how much we're actually putting down until we're done it. And that's why it's exploring, and at the end you find
That's what I'm
out.
saying, instead of doing the 4, you can do just the sample, which would be less. You can get a price both ways. When I talked to Mr. Geiser, I think it was Thursday, this guy was calling me up at 6 a.m. Friday, and going out of town. And he had that late this afternoon, so he had forgotten what I was.
I mean, I don't think this would be an issue if we were going with the original bid of 61 and change. But now we're saving $3 and change.
I think my issue is more that third contingency more than anything else.
72 hours, you mean?
Yeah.
That's not unreasonable, because the testing lab needs 48 hours notice, so.
So if we go, oh, never mind. I just answered my own question.
But I asked them what kind of notice you're gonna need, 3 or 4 days, and he told me 48 hours.
So without that 72,
That doesn't give you the time to call them, because you're playing phone tag with a laboratory.
So you
But
can't
like I
even,
said, this is the only one I contacted. This is the only lab that's been in business for years, but there is when I Googled it, there is another one, I believe it was, if you Google it, I believe it was Briggs out of Cumberland. It's another lab that's opened up in the last couple of years.
well, I mean, you raise a good point, Annie. I must say, I mean,
I mean, if we have concerns, I agree that it should be tested, but I don't agree with writing it into the awarding of the bid. I believe if we have a concern about a road, we test it at that point, and if it passes, then we're out the money, and if it fails, then we have recourse. I think we should only do it if there's an issue, not preemptively.
Excuse me, and as Frank said, we hate to prolong this, but I'd just like to make 2 comments. One to Frank's comment about the state of the roads in town, and I think we all know there are old roads which were asphalted or tarred or whatever we call it, which were never properly constructed with drainage. And we have a place like, in my opinion, Hopkins Hill Road, where the drainage was attended to with diligence. Correct me where I'm wrong here, but I think that project is great. So some of the roads, yeah, they're old, but they weren't ever properly installed. I think this, we all understand that, which is certainly not a fault of Steve's. And also, I'm gonna oppose the motion because Steve indicates he doesn't see a need for it. And I'm not into micromanaging, because I think Steve's doing a fine job. So I will vote against it.
Well, Steve does a fine job anyway.
But he indicates he doesn't think it's necessary. The 72 hours, he just told us, sometimes he gets a call, they can come the next day, when he says the road's ready, it's prepped, and now they can do it. Maybe he has to say, no, you can't do it now, because you can't even give me what's that, 3 days, 4 days?
72 hours is
3 days. Anyway,
not a reasonable count.
that's fine. Well, fine, so the motion, I think I know how it's gonna go, just telling you what I already know.
Right, is there any further discussion on the motion?
My only concern is Dan says he said has other issues that, I don't know if anybody else knows, but I don't know what they are, that he wants to bring up in executive session. So I'm hoping that we don't take a vote and then regret it later on.
Okay, so you want to vote or no vote?
Yeah, I just noted, just for, hate to you know, I hate to interject, but we need to host something like that on the executive session in order to get it. I was looking at.
Oh, you don't have contracts under the?
No.
Probably we ought
So
to
you've
have
got,
that permanently.
you can't have that
Discuss that
discussion
tonight.
tonight.
Okay.
I move the vote to a, all right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, as, yes, as it's already been seconded.
Motion?
Wait. What is the motion, Kevin?
It's
The
the,
one that I gave you,
It's
we're
this.
voting in favor of it?
Yeah, I can't hear you with this thing.
okay. So the
Sorry,
motion is the
not
one
here.
that was passed out by Dan, that's the one
Yeah.
before you right now.
Okay.
So it's the word Cardi Corp with the 4 stipulations. All right, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No,
Motion carries. Huh?
You say no? Two no's and 3 yeses.
All right. All right, moving on to number 10, unfinished business. A, historic preservation and historic cemeteries. Number B, request of emergency management director for the approval of memorandum of understanding.
That's still on hold.
Still on hold. All right, C, impact fee study request for proposal.
Yeah, Ashley provided us with a first draft and the council, and everybody has a copy of it. I said just give, direct me and Jim and Lynn already gave some comments to review it, I guess, and submit comments back to Ashley as council, just submit comments. Any way you want to do it, but I think we just need time to review it.
Ken, do you think that, you've looked at it, are there some things you think you ought to chat with?
Yeah, just to see, where we're going in that direction.
Do you need a motion for that, Ken?
Whatever you want, but- Yeah, and we can put on a work session.
Okay.
Could I move then that we continue this to the next council meeting, and meanwhile, can address questions? No, I mean,
I just asked if
Will you
the
put a
planning.
second to that?
Oh, I'll make a second for discussion.
Sorry.
That's okay. The planning board has looked at the draft that I gave them. They made a couple small changes and then we sent it back to you. I just asked that if you want me at your next meeting, just let me know if you need me there to discuss it with you, or if you just want to do it internally and take it from here, let me know. Just tell me if you want me to be present or not.
No, I think you just need time to review it. The council really hasn't had time. And I haven't had time to review it thoroughly. Jim hasn't had direction on what to do with it.
It's correct,
Right.
Jim,
Plus, I just got-
can you review it for us for next?
I'd be happy to.
And Ken, if you,
Yeah, can you just email it to us?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I believe I emailed it to you. Lynn
we
has a
these
digital
copies.
copy.
Yeah, oh, yeah, the big copy.
Lynn has
Oh, you want it,
Lynn has a
in
digital
on the
copy.
form, then. Oh, you don't like the paper, I know. Or you wanna be able to deal with it electronically.
And if you want me at your meeting for any reason, just let Lynn know and I'll be there.
Number- no? All right. Any further discussion on having it, continuing the meeting? Another meeting? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Can we do the date?
Oh, yeah. Again, this is something that I was preparing contingent upon legislative passage of a particular act concerning secondary farm activity, agricultural activities. It still has not been passed and may never pass. So it's not necessary for me to bring anything forward to the council at this time. I suggest that we continue it on the agenda to the next month. By then, we should know, because the rumor was that the legislature might come back into session at some point in September. So we should know certainly by October to whether or not we're dealing with a piece of legislation that requires passing of it. So I won't bother you with it until we know that we need it. So my suggestion is continue it again.
So E is the introduction, consideration, and possible action on proposed amendments to the Exeter Code of Ordinances, zoning, Appendix A, Article 11, renewable energy, Section 11.2, wind energy, conversion systems, and zoning, Appendix A, Article 2, zoning district use regulations, Sections 2.41, use category number 79, wind energy conversion systems.
Oh, good job.
So we have a resolution from previous where we temporarily banned wind turbines. Moratorium, thank you. And we do have something from Ashley, if you want to speak to it.
Sure, so you had previously asked the planning board to draft a wind ordinance. And the planning board, I went back in the files and pulled out the last draft of the wind ordinance where they had left off several years ago. We dusted that off and I went through it and we made some revisions to that. They went through it a few times again and they sent you back a draft for your consideration. And they offer you this ordinance for first reading to go to public hearing.
Council, any comments, or would we want to have a work session with them first? Maybe we could also do it along with
Has
you.
been going back and forth for quite a few years.
Well, it has, but the point is, we do,
Yeah,
but we do have something out in front of us, and I thank you for moving it forward as we asked. We haven't had this. What we've had is a reinstatement or reaffirmation of the moratorium. So now it is probably time that we consider something. So, I guess work session is in order. We may need to have one on a previous issue that we addressed earlier this evening, because nobody was here to answer some questions. We were busy with a crowd. No, you can't be with several crowds at once, we understand. This crowd said they've all left, but that's okay, not all of them. So, would we move to place this item on a work session agenda? So we can
second that motion. Is there any further consideration from the council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
But it is a step in the right direction, and thank you, Ashley, for moving it.
Thank you, Ashley. F, introduction, consideration, and possible action. Proposed amendments to Exeter Code of Ordinances, Chapter 38, streets, sidewalks, and other public places. Article 2, streets, Division 3, official street map, Section 38-106, buildings not on map streets. And this is to have,
take Gardner Road off the unmaintained list so that it can be maintained.
I'll make a motion that we
Read that, actually.
do so. We add Garden Road to the maintained list of streets.
Second.
We have a list of streets that the DPW maintains. And this would just move that as an open road to that list.
And I think we need to, and I don't think this is an issue that requires any kind of a public hearing. Am I correct, Jim? I don't think so. It's just an updating of our official highway map.
It's a public meeting, but.
Right, but we're updating our highway map.
The code.
Yeah.
Right, it's an open meeting, it's an open, but not a public hearing.
No, so we can simply change the status of our highway map by approving.
Correct, at open meeting.
That's what I assume. Okay, Wendell?
Is there any further discussion on this issue? At this point?
My only question, Mr. President, is the town of Richmond gonna do the same, or have they already done that? Do they already maintain their portion, or?
From what I have read, not related to this, but related to another street in another state, any town that, I mean, once it's a street and it's a town line street, either town can maintain it, in either side, regardless of where the town line resides. So if we add to our list, if they do, it's up to them, if they, it would have no bearing on what we do.
Well, the reason that comes in question is obviously the town line, where it is on Gardner Road. If we get a big snowstorm and Exeter's part is plowed before Richmond's section is plowed, is there gonna be some coordination between the DPW departments to make sure that the roads are maintained? And
We've always had an agreement.
okay. I assume that, but I wanted to ask the question anyway.
There you go.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, you can hear.
Ken's not good at that.
Next on the agenda, unfinished business, G, Gardner Road. I do know that there are residents outside, who's anybody?
in here. They left.
Did anybody hear that, was outside when we had to open, public comment, who wished to speak, who did not get a chance to speak previously?
Didn't get a chance to hear.
We didn't hear any of what was going on. We are on the Richmond side.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll ask you guys if you wish to raise your hand, we'll call on you one time, please, state your name, and then you're limited to 3 minutes, quick comment, so that way you get a chance to speak as well on this.
I don't have any comment.
Okay.
I just wanted to hear
Okay.
what was going on.
Is there? So you first.
I don't know if this is the right time, but Bill and I are gonna speak for, I wanna talk as a resident and also as a.
For the fire district.
For the fire district.
Okay, if you want to speak first.
I'm Andrew Slater, I live on 367 Gardner Road. There's a couple different issues. First is, I feel sad for the people on the other side of Gardner Road, but as I bought my house 24 years ago, I checked my area, and I looked into it, and I understand that Earl Adams at the time sold his land to put in a plat, and it was gonna be approximately 70 homes, and I didn't check this out. At the time, Gardner was open as an unmaintained section. As they put the plat in, Richmond closed the road without asking our permission. That's when the road had the barriers put in. The road has been maintained, it was on our list that's been written by Mr. Green since, I believe, 1962 to 82. Obviously, when they purchased their homes on the other side, they made some mistakes and didn't clearly check into the records. The road is not a dead end, it's a public record. As far as safety is, time is of the essence. As we heard the gentleman speak, he cut his arm. It was a pretty horrific situation. I happened to be fortunate to be in a car where I could hear the cruiser speak of what was going on. It was mayhem of where he was. And the only thing that saved his life was Rick Smith, his neighbor, that put a tourniquet on his arm. And that is a very big thing. As far as traffic on a road, if you're Richmond residents, you have a police department, you need to speak to your town and have it maintained by your police department. They've done that in the past on the other end of Gardner Road they felt had speeding issues. they posted somebody there to write tickets like they would do on 195 or any road. I think that traffic goes by every one of our houses, and we're well aware that that traffic could be there, so to say traffic's an issue on a road of record is foolish. We've saved money as a town, a significant number, for school busing, back and forth. The road being open says too many pluses to it. The complaint of having too many cars going fast past your house is not a complaint, it's a safety. It's a matter of, that's if you have a police department, have it policed.
So, the next mayor?
I just want to say that, excuse me, my name is Wendy Wall, I live at 250 Gardner Road. Happens to be that the intersections of Richmond, South Kingstown, and Exeter are in the middle of the road in front of my driveway. I pay my taxes in Richmond, but for the last 30 years, I've lived on that road because it has been a quiet, safe place to live. And since the opening of it, to an enormous amount of traffic, I walk it every single day, multiple times, and it has changed. I walk in the middle of the road so that people will slow down, and they don't. So, and I yell at them, please slow down. There's no speed limit sign on the road, on any of it. There is no speed bumps, I understand, are out of the question because the plows can't deal with it, it's a public road. But if there could be a gate or some way to slow it down, maybe gates don't work, I think we live in the 21st century where we have remote controls for everything. If the police, the fire department, the volunteer fire department, the school buses, and the EMTs were able to open and close it, that'd be great. But this sort of onslaught of traffic that's bottlenecking into James Trail, which is a one-lane road that belongs to South Kingstown, as soon as someone goes into the pond behind Peter Potts Pottery, then it's gonna be a different story. And it's, you know, it's really unsafe. And the amount of beer bottles that are pitched on the sides of the road, that means that there are people who are, you know, drunk, driving up and down these roads. And fortunately, my daughter is older now, but I have neighbors who have little kids, and it's a real problem. So I think you need to take that into consideration.
I said, comment, please.
Sir?
Bill Navarre, I'm one of the fire commissioners on the Exeter Fire District. I'd like to reread this letter into the record. Dear council members, I'm writing today in opposition to the reclosing of the recently reopened section of Gardner Road that we share with the town of Richmond. The section of road in question has been a right-of-way since the 1800s and should never have been closed to begin with, but here we are. For one reason or another, public safety vehicles, fire, rescue, and police have found themselves on the wrong side of the break no fewer than 4 times in the last 18 months. The lives of 3 residents, 2 of whom are residents of our town, were affected. If not for the actions of a concerned neighbor, the results would have been catastrophic. My opinion was that the opening of the road was a no-brainer. Public safety has been living on borrowed time working around the block section of Gardner Road. With the road open to vehicular traffic, public safety vehicles will have a more direct route to those calling for their emergency services. School buses would have a shorter and more direct route to transport school children, and fewer children would be required to walk on the streets during inclement weather. As commissioners, we do exercise control over the EMS rescue operations. However, we have no operational control over either of the fire companies in town. My recommendation is that their governing bodies be contacted for their input. I realize a few residents see themselves as now being harmed by the decision to open Gardner Road, but I fail to see this harm as irreparable. The benefit to residents far outweighs the fact that a few residents are not subject to some traffic passing by my house. Thank you for your time and consideration, Bill Navarre, Commissioner, Exeter Fire District.
Is anybody else who hasn't spoken who wishes to speak at this time? At this time, I'll return the meeting back to the council. Does anybody in the council wish to speak on this issue?
Well, I know that Danny had talked to state police and they were opposed to putting a gate.
About 2 weeks ago, I received a call from the state police. I'm the emergency management liaison for the town of Exeter. And they want the road left open because it has cut down their response time. They're down I don't know how many troopers they're down now, they just lost another 4 in the last 2 weeks, so they don't have, their manpower stretched thin. But if there's someone over on 138, they can shoot them down that one side road and down through Gardner Road and the Mail Road. It's cut the response time 10 to 15 minutes, they said. Before the last council meeting, I called David Chamberlain, the fire chief at home, and I've always had respect for what David says, and I asked him, what's your opinion? Tell it to me straight. And we had his presentation at the last council meeting, along with Stefan, our emergency management director. I can understand the people that want it closed. Mrs. Brizio was here earlier. I know her into the road, it was a dead-end road before, but, you know, it's, when I got the state police, fire chief, and EMA telling me what's happened as far as response time, I really can't argue with them, I have to stand behind them.
Cal, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I hear your concerns, and I know it's a straight road. And when you tell me that there's a FedEx truck or delivery truck that's speeding, I mean, this is unconscionable. We have in town, our town, about 100 miles of roads of the kind that you live on. Most of them are not a straight through, and many of them are private. I mean, they're self-contained developments, but there are plenty that where speeding could be an issue. There's gotta be, there must be some kind of signage we can put up. Now, we all know signs don't prevent speeding, you only have to look at the road where I'm right here to know that. But the point is, there's an attempt to minimize the speeding. And for Richmond, who's owns part of this problem, their taxpayers support a police department. I would like to think sometime one of those folks goes by. Now, the young lady shakes her head no, but guess what? Some of you people who live in Richmond, I would think you would demand that. Because if we had a police department, we'd say, go there and watch. Not all day, every day. I had a special constable who said to me, well, why don't we pay someone a bit of money to go and do a report and at least take down numbers? If I got a FedEx truck, let's write to FedEx and say, we've got reports of your delivery people speeding on roads in excessive amounts and putting lives in danger. Somebody ought to call over the task. As far as the private individuals that are driving too fast, shame on them. We see it all over town, and I'm sorry about that. I know, and the young lady says it's not an issue. Well, for me it is. So I'm just.
Shame on them.
I'm
It's
just.
in danger
I
of
beg your
lives.
pardon?
I'm just saying.
Well, shame on them is
Them,
true,
yeah.
and I couldn't agree more, and I'm sorry that happens. And if I lived there, had little children, I'd say, please, keep them off the road. I'm sorry.
I did ask to do a gate was something that was proposed by some residents. And I asked our town solicitor to look into the issue and the legality of a gate. I was wondering if you could share your findings with us.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's probably not gonna be a very popular opinion, but I did quite a bit of research, as you all might know, over the last month concerning a couple of questions. First of all, do we have a public highway? And there's no question in my mind that there is, and always has been, at least since the 1800s, probably to the back to the maybe 1830s, of a public highway. There are several maps that show that. The most stunning one is the Beers map, which I believe is the 1870s, clearly shows a public roadway all the way, end to end. We have the testimony of the prior public works director. We have the testimony of Steve, who's had experience since the 1960s. And not only that, but I went with Steve down there to see whether there was evidence of a public dedication. I was personally involved in a lawsuit in East Greenwich at the very beginning of my career concerning Cars Pond Road, where this very issue, that is, what is the bounds of a public highway? And in that case, the Supreme Court found that public highway can be evidenced by stone walls on either side. Here we have a fairly consistent set of stone walls flanking both sides of Gardner Road, beginning to end, except where maybe they have been taken down, but pretty consistently at about 2 rods each, which is also consistent with the maps. So putting that all together, there's little doubt there has been for a significant period of time a public highway, according to the standards that the Supreme Court has set. The Supreme Court now also has opined concerning the obligation of the towns that have the road going through it to maintain it. And in this instance, I completely agree with the solicitor of Richmond, who has already told her town council, when asked to conduct a similar search, that once a road is public, it's the obligation of the community to keep it open, end to end. And that there are cases that basically say that. So unfortunately, there's nothing that I could find that gives either community the ability to gate a public highway. Not in Rhode Island. Maybe it's done up in Maine, maybe it's done on private roadways within private gated communities, but not on a public roadway. So unfortunately, while there are arguments that many people have about gating and the pros and cons of that, it's not something that I believe can be legally done by a municipality once a public roadway has been found, and it certainly has been in this case.
I'd like to ask a question of the DPW director. Steve, do you know what the protocol is for when speed limits are set on roads? So would you go to a road and it's posted 25 miles an hour? Who decides that that should be the speed limit?
Town council votes on this posted speed limit. They posted this town at 25 miles an hour.
Okay.
All towns.
So
What happens when it's in both towns?
Yeah,
Signs.
three towns.
There are
Three
signs.
towns.
Right now, there are 25 mile an hour speed limit signs
Where? There are Exeter? those?
on both
Not
sides
the
of
whole rest,
Gardner Road.
so there's sign, there is signage there already.
Yes.
Not on the south side, anywhere further down.
My next question about signs, if you put no through traffic, do you have to go through Exeter and the Richmond Council?
Richmond put no through traffic signs on their Camelot development, but they did not put them on any other street.
It's a dead end.
Go through
And
traffic,
you guys, they
again,
took,
prohibit the public highway. Because it's a public road.
You see that on a lot of streets and around different towns, no through traffic or
No through traffic would be great.
I'd have to look at that, and I'd have to understand precisely what it is, what is meant by through traffic. If you're saying trucks of a certain limit, I mean, that may be appropriate. I'll have to check out that specific question. I only looked into gating, which is clearly something that
Well, a perfect example, Route 2 South, just before you get to Route 138, Waits Corner Road, you got truck traffic, that's just a little shortcut. It saves a little bit of time, no trucks.
Yeah, I'll be happy to take a look at that. I did not research it.
Can I ask one question? Can somebody spell Gardner Road for me?
Yeah, right. Has an
I understand.
No, seriously.
Because I live on Gardner Road.
Steve had the best answer to that one.
That came up.
I asked him,
So as far as I'm concerned, it's two roads.
It's without the guy
Again, this meeting, it goes public. This meeting is for the council.
The original,
Dan was asking me, that's all I
Okay.
was
the original homestead that the road was named after is Gardner, the way Exeter spells the road. It's on the map.
Without the I or with the?
Without the I.
Without the I, okay.
That Jim, the Beers map shows his homestead on the map, and that's where the road went right by.
To answer your question, they would have to go to Richmond to talk to their 911 coordinator, because ours is without the I, and that is
And at
official.
their end, it has the I.
That, right, but ours is
That
official
confusion
in
came
our
up
911
before in a meeting,
system.
I remember that.
Right,
The
but they
sign
have
is
to talk to Richmond
I.
to have that clarified and adopted by their town council to change it formally through the 911 system. And that, ours has been done that way to meet our criteria.
To me, I feel, I've heard testimony at Richmond town council meetings. I've heard from Richmond Fire, Richmond Police, and their rescue. I've heard from Exeter Rescue, Exeter Fire, Dan has heard from the state police, and they're all in favor of this. Again, we've also heard now from our solicitor that a gate is not an option. Therefore, I'm gonna make a motion that we leave Gardner Road open at the time as is.
Second,
Is there any further discussion from the
A
council?
little bit, can we have Stephen explore some signage, what we can do down there?
Another question?
I know Jim's
In
gonna
terms
explore,
of-
I'll put some more speed signs up, but where they're complaining about the speed is on the lower section of Gardner Road, the asphalted and chip sealed section. I can't work in South Kingstown, but I can put a sign up in Exeter, or even on the Richmond side, because again, we still use that road.
How much of that road is in South Kingston?
From,
From the top of the street down to one,
To James Trail.
177.
To James Trail.
James Trail.
Yeah.
Split in the
James
middle.
Trail.
and I did talk
Because there's
to,
a three-way, there's a post right there, a white post.
it says town line, it says town line, Richmond and South Kingston. There is another sign that South Kingstown put up when they did their GIS mapping about 7 or 8 years ago, where the town line is, which is approximately 80 feet from where we stopped chip seal.
What, regarding the amendment, what are you referring to?
Well, I was thinking of exploring the signage, but he said Jim's doing that.
But yeah, he just said, that he was- I can put up speed signs right away.
Is there any further discussion?
So since both towns were in agreement that the road should be kept open and maintained, Richmond has a police department, as Cal said,
Okay.
and we have state police coverage, and the state police have already said that they don't want a gate. So if part of maintaining the road would be considered from a public DPW standpoint, why can't it also be considered as part of a route? Why can't the Richmond Police Department go down their end of the road? Why can't the state police go down our end of the road? I think there's still some unanswered questions that maybe a short meeting to resolve some of these issues with the town of Richmond probably could be cleared up. From the coverage of police, from the coverage of let them know
Lives
that
there,
they-
Gardner Road.
Right, he's been going down the road.
Yeah, he goes to his
Can I
driveway
ask
and
a
goes home.
He's going
Really
down
important
the
question about the chip sealing and the way, safety.
If I can
on the
finish.
road.
Okay, folks, please, council doing their business and you need to, not
I think we
interrupt
have-
at this point.
I think both residents of Exeter and Richmond have similar issues with regard to the speeding. So I think the burden is upon us, since the state police covers Exeter, to make sure that that's part of their route. And I would have to imagine if the speeding is done as often as the residents of both towns say it is, all you need to do in any road is have a couple of people pulled over at one point or another, and then the word is out. You can't speed on that road anymore. So if we were to have that discussion with Richmond, from the signage standpoint, from the speeding standpoint, from having both the state police and the Richmond police include that road in their patrols, I think we could drastically reduce the amount of abuse that's being done on that road with either vehicles that are registered or non-registered.
Agreed. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we move on to number 11, reports of officers, boards, and committees. Mr. Charlie Brennan, Public Works.
Good evening, sir. You get them chips out of the way? Your business over? You get them chips out of the way? How was it?
Well, it's actually finished in the farm forest. Oh,
As well as this.
I understand that's to be continued.
That was quite a crack. It was a big jump. Hope our neighbors don't get home.
Good luck with it.
Hope you ain't got too much longer. Is you right here? I was gonna pick you up, take you home.
Let me see.
You did,
Okay, so why don't you get
You gotta wait for that man's tire on the road. You know,
He
I
says
mean.
that to me all the time, you know, but I'm so focused sometimes on what I'm doing that I don't even see people.
Work it out.
Send it back. So that one comes in in October.
So, can you answer your other questions?
Yes.
We're gonna get to that.
Just to clarify to council, the reason why I have Steve take me, not because it's his department. A lot of times, or most of the time, I can't make it to their department when it's open during the week, because I work. So I'm lucky I get to the town hall. But if I am in contact with Steve, if there's any concerns, I will contact Steve. If someone has a problem or a question, I do. But I apologize for not, I was told you that before, about not being down in the garage and so on and so forth. The other two places for me, transfer station and animal control, well, obviously, they're open on the weekend. I get to go there and talk to people and communicate and so on and so forth. So just to clear that up, you go right ahead, sir.
All right, Public Works, this month, we did finish all the chip sealing, Garden Road South,
I just need to know if there's anything.
Queens Fort, not sorry, Queens Fort, but Forest Hills Plat, and Dolly Pond and Lodge Road were all chip sealed. They were also swept last Thursday, so most of the loose stone currently has been removed. We'll sweep them again in about 3 weeks, and then again before it freezes for the winter, and then again in the spring, obviously a normal routine cleanup. We had a big push this month on repairing catch basins. We're replacing a lot of the old structures that are degrading, falling apart. The concrete, just the salt eats it, so it's a constant problem with settling and rotting. We worked mostly on the east end of town. We have one more on Glen Rock Road to finish, and then we'll be moving to the flats off the Yahoo, and then a few on the west end of town. And that'll finish most of the catch basin repairs for this year. And other than that, we started recutting the road, the brush on the side of the road again, and all the normal maintenance.
I got a question for Public Works. Liberty Road, somebody line striped it.
We had a free line striping.
Because when I went down the road and then I got on the connector road, I'm like, the state road's been line striped too,
Yeah.
so they made a mistake again?
They do this periodically. Stony Lane and Liberty Road, we get free line striping every
So
once
now
in a
I'm
while.
waiting for the phone call from the people on Mill Road wanting to know when theirs is gonna be done.
We haven't started that, because I was gonna wait until after all of our other
Well,
processes.
when I went down the road, I'm like, I don't recall Steve mentioning this, and then when I turned on the connector road, I'm like, I know what
I
happened.
believe I've mentioned it, but almost every.
It happened before.
Yeah, oh, many times, many.
Every so often,
Oh, yeah.
I go up, they strike it.
That's always been done by the state since Connector Road was put in.
As long as they don't send us a bill.
They never have.
Yeah, but everybody that was complaining wanting line striping lived on Mill Road, so.
So what, on Liberty Road, is it a double line?
Double and
lines, white ones on the shoulders.
Really? Whoa.
Full line
Not
Is
past,
there room
we'll
enough
take
for
it.
cars to pass with the?
It's tight spots, we'll put it, but, yeah.
I thought that's what happened. I just-
Normally, we wouldn't do gutter lines, and we would only do a single yellow
I
set,
would think.
because it's economical. I mean, that's the reason we do it that
They did a
way.
nice job.
It looks good with all the lines, and I know people like it, and it's just money is really the whole thing. But we'll be riding the town of South Kingston's bid for line striping. They have they basically the whole southern part of the state rides their bid, because they have such a cheap number, and the company has no problem. So we'll be using
So you're
them
planning to move forward on it?
with line striping, sure.
You are?
Yeah. It was passed in the budget finance time,
I see.
so.
Since we talked about that months ago.
Right, now it's in the process, so I just wanted to wait till our chip sealing was done, that way just all that other work was out of the way.
And what roads will seal line?
It'll be Mail Road.
Mail Road.
Yahoo Road, Mill
That will
Road,
be happy.
Trips Corner Road. It'd be more like Stony Lane and New Road. Stony Lane, I don't know if they did Peter Street yet, they probably haven't got that far. But Stony Lane and New Road will be done.
I was just going like yesterday, it's not line striping.
Not yet.
No, it's not. How about Hopkins Hill?
That's, the West Greenwich had theirs done under the state program, but I'm considering that one as well to slow the traffic down. It does slow the traffic down a little bit, because it holds them to the sides of the road. So
It is a
it's
fine,
effective.
it is a fine job there. I pass through there quite often, that whole road, because you prepped it. And that was the point I was
We
trying
had
to
time
make.
to do that.
Well, I'm just saying that you fixed issues, which years ago, there was no money to do that. We know this. Anyway, never mind. Okay.
Transfer station, we repaired a few boxes. Everything else is running normally at the transfer station, so we have to pick up some handouts at the central landfill. I did update our A to Z list on the last month, so that's up to date also. They did request that we put something on our website for recycling, because they've got a new national push for recycling. So we're gonna put, that on our website. I gotta talk to Amy. We did get a $1 discount on our tippage, because we hit a high percentage of recycling for the year. That's last year actually, but we get the dollar rebate. They just take it off our last bill for the last year's fiscal year. So that was about $4,700.
What do you mean by $1?
$1 per ton.
Ton,
Right, so that come off our bill.
good.
That comes right directly back here. They just take it right off our last invoice for this fiscal year. So that's the transfer. Animal control, everything's running pretty decent. A lot of little kittens, a lot of feral cats out there that have people, a lot of complaints, people calling constantly, phone rings. We've had a huge issue up on Industrial Drive. We've had issues on a few other town roads that people just will not refuse to get their cats spayed, so the neighbors call because there's cats under their decks, cats in their garages and their sheds, so we had to go and trap these cats. And we know where the problem is, but there's really nothing you can do about it, other than we trap them, and then Paws Watch has helped us out a lot with our bills, as far as, because state law says you're supposed to spay community cats. So, following all the rules, we're doing everything we can. We get discounts from the Paws Watch, and we've done quite a few. Friends have helped us out with some bills on that as well. So we've managed to, and a lot of these cats go back where they come from. Other ones we give away to people that have bonds, that want mice, we call them micers. So, but that's a process. But we have a lot of kittens too. Kittens from feral cats are fine, because once they're handled, they're not feral. So they get adopted right out, not a problem. So it's only the adults that we have to deal with. So, and other than that, everything's running very well.
We had a question on the animal shelter report we get from Dina, and the veterinary service for the week of the 23rd to 29th of July was, the services were $985 and then for the week of I guess the week ending week beginning 30 July to 5 August was a veterinary service of $1,075. We just wanted to know if we knew why it was so high.
Is that both vets or just one vet? You're talking about all the total on the both vets?
Well, on this report, it just says veterinary
I know
services, so I guess it's all vets.
That's most of the cats, right? For spayed and neuters after they give birth, they'll get fixed as well. So that's a plus, that's more cost. All the kittens have to get checked and distemper shots and all. This kitten time, the vet bills go right up and they'll drop right off again.
What's your total budget for the year on vet bills though?
12,000 and change.
It's an awful lot.
This month is these 3 months are the worst 3 months of the year. And
What
then
happens when you get?
we've had some months that have been $200, $100.
What happens if you blow your budget? We don't have any more money.
If we have too many people import too many cats or problems with dogs, and that can be a problem. That's why it's called a budget.
Taxpayers screaming at us.
Yeah, they have in the past too, but at least we're not at 75 cats. So, I mean, we were down to 12 cats prior to this breeding season. Now we're up to 40 something cats.
At the shelter right now?
Right now.
I'm sorry, what was the number?
40, it's on the report that,
Yeah, okay.
should be right in front of right at 40, I think it's 45.
A lot of kittens.
And mostly, a lot of them are kittens, yes.
Are they, may I ask a question, Mr. President?
Sure.
Are they feral? Or are they?
The kittens, the kitten can't be feral.
Well, out of the 40 cats that you have, because I
Some
saw.
are feral, yes.
Yeah, so those are the.
They're the ones
mostly
that are coming out of
that are
industrial
supposed,
drive.
that have been termed farm cats.
Right.
So once we spay or neuter them.
At least they're not having kittens again and coming back. And then what they do, Paws Watch, they clip the ear so that we know when we trap them in the future that they're already fixed and we just let them go. That's been the system for a long, long time.
What is this group out of, where are they from, Boys Watch, or whatever it's called?
Where they, I don't know whether, they do their work out of Cranston and Walworth.
But they come around, they just...
No, the cats go to them,
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
And they primarily work with
feral cats.
feral cats or animal shelters.
Well, they'll deal with anybody, truly, they'll deal with anybody.
Yeah.
But they help out with the feral cat problems, wherever they are. That they give us a discount off of our regular price.
And that's why it's so high.
This is the time, this is cat breeding season, and I bet those go up quite heavy.
You don't go out?
But they will drop right back.
What's that?
You should go down to the shelter, look at the kittens.
I'm sure my lab would love it.
You better not.
Do it on Sundays.
What does it say?
74.
Oh, please lower it all.
That's good, I'm so.
She's got a sweater on, lower the temp.
Earlier.
Oh, please, okay. She's got a sweater, lower the temp,
Yeah.
please.
Nobody's complaining in the cold, so.
I am.
Next, to tax collector liaison.
Sorry.
Frank.
Yes,
She's hot.
tax collector report?
Yes, please.
Yes. The report submitted by Ms. Robitaille, the tax collector, which you have all in your packet. Total collections for the month of August were $1,759,783.46. And all monies have been reported to the treasurer. She also reminds us that the first quarter taxes are now due. Taxpayers have till the 15th of September to pay without penalty, without being in arrears.
Before you move on, Kevin, may I just add, and please, Frank,
Yes.
let me speak a minute if you would. I spoke to Kim today, and you all need to know, there's nobody here to hear me, except for you folks, but you need to know, what we're gonna vote on shortly, on these 50+ thousand, all the other adjustments by quarter, maybe some of you know this, new coupons have been prepared in-house, processed in-house, and I didn't know this until this morning, already mailed. And I understand all the officers just jumped in and helped get it done. And they've worked really hard to address the mess created by this thing over here. But no, they're really trying to keep up with it. So they're
I'm
really on
understanding that
track.
Maria helped quite a bit.
She did, and everybody lent an hour or two. That's what I understand, right? I didn't know they'd gone out, because I didn't get one, because I'm not in that situation.
Where everybody else folding stuff and
See?
stamp and mail.
See?
Everybody.
And I appreciate that. It's an efficient, everybody working together as a team. It's a really nice thing. So thank you, or whoever, everybody. You did stuff in that, you work on that. Sorry.
It's okay.
All right. Exeter Restrainage School District Liaison Report. Frank, you're up again.
Yes, I'm looking for the piece that I printed out. The superintendent has a new blog now, and he has announcements on it that tend to be a little bit more comprehensive than the announcements on the website. So there was one specific section of his blog that I was going to speak to, but I pretty much know it from memory, so I can tell you all. I did forward the link of the blog to everybody, so you can read it on your own. But primarily, the main thing that I thought was interesting is that the enrollment continues to rise at the school district, despite the surrounding communities tend to be decreasing. So that's something that we're going to have to take into consideration and look at as we move forward with budgets, and I think it would especially be to our interests next year during budget times when we have the joint meeting between both town councils and the school district, what their plans are, how we're going to move forward with that.
Right, did he mention where the enrollment is coming from, whether it was Exeter or Stranger, just said enrollment in general?
He didn't specifically say.
Was it second,
What was
third?
that,
The
Liz?
enrollment
Yes.
increase? What was it, the younger kids?
They had to move one of the
Second
grades.
grade
as
They
well.
did, they
moved second
Second grade's at Metcalf,
To Metcalf.
Bottom is
But
just kindergarten,
I think
first
the,
now.
I think the other issue is, do they seem to be coming from here or there, isn't that your
That's
question?
more my question.
Right.
And we don't know that yet, right?
Well,
We seemed
I
pretty
think you
steady
can,
with that count that we had for the 2 years. I went over the count in October for 2 years, well, 3 years actually, and our numbers stayed pretty steady.
Meaning,
In other words, they were like at, what, 815, I think it was, we were right
meaning
there.
that increases
We
were
didn't have,
coming,
we increased like 3.
they were coming from another place.
Well, I only do Exeter.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
I
so
only
the
do Exeter.
increases were not coming from here.
Well, they just put it on
Agreed.
15, 20.
Keep it in the back of our minds with budget.
Parks,
It's a good idea to keep it in the back of our minds with budget.
absolutely.
Good thing we put a little money aside, Maria, where are you? Thank you for recommending,
All right. Next, tax assessor's office liaison report.
Yeah, sure, real quickly, you already received a copy of Kerry's report. Just a couple things I wanted to highlight. There were 16 appeals, motor vehicles, and we see some tonight as abatements. That's what they call, yeah, abatements. But the others were mitigated, they were resolved, because 15-year-old vehicles, as we probably all know, are no longer taxed with the new state statute, so that took care of almost all, but 3, I think, of the appeals. And the other thing, just want to note here, Kerry writes, recorded land evidence records are reviewed on a weekly basis, allowing the systems to reflect the most recent changes in property ownership, as well as changes to mailing addresses, requests that are received. All of this makes the whole process more efficient, and really, to the office's credit, but to the clerk's office, for making sure that the information gets passed on, because it has to come from your office to theirs. So for this to be working the way it is, it's a good thing. I guess because I remember when it wasn't so efficient, so. Well, thank you. Anyway, it's all good. Let me just tell you quickly about Job Corps. I don't have a report. I was going to try to reach out to Linda Soderberg or any of them, but you know, with the holiday and all, Linda once promised me a monthly update, but that hasn't happened, so I'll try to get you one. I know news is good unless you've heard something that I don't know, but I think it's all good. And as far as Washington County Regional Planning, well, I did get a note that Jeff Barretta, the executive director, is trying to pull everybody together. And I wrote back and said, whenever you can meet, morning, night, a lot of people are, you know, gainfully employed. And I haven't heard any more, so I'm sorry. But if we don't meet,
How much do we pay a year?
3,000. So,
We're paying
well-
3,000 for no meeting.
well, listen, I understand that, Dan. So when the next budget cycle comes up,
This has been going on for over a year now.
well, it's not, not quite, but since the
election.
Since the election, only 2 of us were left, and it's just, no, you're right, Dan, and I'll be the first to tell you if
Because I
it's
remember
not
that
working, then,
probably like 6 years ago, you used to get emails, they had like a director or,
yeah,
you
we
can
do.
send emails out, you don't see anything anymore.
Well, we had, no, we don't.
Did they have him too, or is he gone?
Yeah, no, he's there, and see, really got caught up in a prison thing, and he's been spending a lot of time, and it's generating money, and it's supposed to, but if we're not doing anything, it doesn't support anything, so, sorry, but, you know, you're right, Dan, and so when the budget comes up, maybe go
Wait,
ahead.
you have a question on that?
you don't see prison on the agenda anymore.
No, we took it off. Well, we took it off because we're not doing, we voted a month or 2
We
ago.
got one light bulb right.
Yeah, it's just, we don't need to keep thinking about it just now, because in my opinion,
That's true.
we can't be assisted.
Mr. President, with the permission of the council, can I just revert back to the school district report? I found that blog, so I'd like to read that paragraph into the record, if I could, from the superintendent.
Sure.
So the superintendent reports that enrollment in our district continues to rise despite the trend of declining enrollment in our surrounding communities. As it's already been discussed, grade 2 has been relocated from Wabaloo to Metcalf, a move that was necessary based on space needs at Wabaloo. We have opened up 5 new elementary classrooms since the close of school last year, including a last-minute addition of a new grade 6 classroom to begin on Tuesday. So as we discuss it, it doesn't really specifically say where the students are coming from. But I think it's important for us to take note on that comment.
Can I copy that? Right?
Certainly. I emailed it to you, but here's a hard copy you can put in the record if you want. You can send it to your clerk email address. You may have that, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. President.
Do you have anything else on planning committee or not?
No, sorry, I wish I could.
Public safety, Dan?
Oh, gee, I lost my audience. Stefan, do you have anything?
Other than the hiccup with the generator, we've been actively participating in recovery efforts with Hurricane Harvey. That's why I was late for tonight's meeting. I had a conference call with FEMA. Exeter and West Greenwich have been designated as storm-ready communities. We got that designation 2 months ago. REMA and FEMA will be reaching out to the council to have a ceremony for a sign, but that'll mean an annual grant package that'll be coming to the community in order to keep up our weather stations and just do what we can to work with Public Works and town government to just keep us as much ahead of the storm as possible. But aside from that, we've been actively working with Exeter 1. Their new engine was placed on the road. We've got their radio equipment, which we found out was really one of the top of the line piece of equipment programmed by REMA at no fee cost. So and we're working with the volunteers, and we're actively working with me with emergency management activities. So you'll start seeing some expenditures from my emergency management committee account. It's been quite popular, and we're engaging these younger volunteers in helping us with community service, and at the same time trying to give a little bit back to them. It's not a lot, but it's a nice way to say thank you. And of course, we're working with Rescue to make sure things are staying on track over there with the changes that they've had. They have a new employee that's just come on board. So things have been moving in a very positive direction. And on a side note, I just wanted to thank the council and DPW, especially all the office workers, the constables, for all of our work on trying to gather the information for the Gardner Road project. I realize that it's been a daunting task, but I do think that the ends will justify the means in the long run. There's one thing I would like to ask on the report. It's been matriculated, a constant line item regarding our debris management program. I have yet to get with the consultant. It's my understanding that he may actually be in the storm-ridden area right now, so I don't anticipate speaking with him at least for another 5 to 6 weeks. And things may change for my status over the next couple of weeks depending on the next 2 storms, actually now 3 storms that are now actively brewing. So I would think that at this point it'd be prudent to remove that. I will work with our regional partners in the event that we do have any type of storm-related damage or debris through DPW to work forward with our local plans until we can put our name on the dotted line for that one. And aside from that, that's really about it. I didn't know if you had any questions for me regarding anything that's been going on. Thank you.
Thanks.
Kevin, while I'm on public safety, I want to thank Scope, trying to keep order here, and heard your drill sergeant voice tonight.
Thank you, Scope.
Thank you, Scott.
Mr. President, I could add something too for Exeter 1 tonight. September 25th, we're going to have a PR with a new engine. We acquired a grant last year for $365,000, so that's zero to the taxpayers of Exeter. Last week, about a week and a half, we scored another grant for 2017, and we're going to be awarded just a little over $80,000 to replace hose. That's eventually we would have had to put into the taxpayers, payment plan to support or to finance us. So a little over $80,000, that will cover 2 engines and 2 anchors for replacing all the hose on it. some biddings and stuff like that. So Exeter one's been pretty fortunate in the last, I guess, 6 years. We've scored probably 5 grants, and then one of the 5 was a regional grant that helped out Exeter too. West Greenwich 1 fire and Iron Moreland fire. So my grant writers are doing a hell of a job, and hopefully, I just want to make you know that we're working hard on another end to support, you know, the fire department and the community too. So I'll probably have a few congressmen coming down. I got to work with the politics and the thank yous to, you know, to acknowledge that the town got the fire department got the grant, and then we got another one shortly. So.
September 25th, you
I
said?
believe it is. I'll send an email.
Would you send out a note or?
Yeah, it's about 10 o'clock. Yeah, I believe it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Landry, I was trying to coordinate. I wanted to do it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, right.
They didn't want to do anything for the month of August because that's their vacation time off. We had a date, and then two of the 3 had a conflict. Trying to get the 3 of them there, at least, which would have been Landry, White House, and Senator Reed. So. And then I also like to say thank you for supporting the Gardner Road issue. That's all I have to say.
It's good to hear from you.
Okay.
Right.
Continuing on, Dan.
Exeter Rural Land Preservation Trust. I did not make the meeting this month because I was still stuck in a hayfield. They meet at 6 o'clock at night, so I don't have any sleep.
Next is my report for the Exeter Public Library. So over the last 6 weeks, the Exeter Library had the summer programs. They had 1,432 attendees over that 6-week period. 1,432. They also want to report that ADT will be installing 2 security cameras outside the library. They haven't had any issues. It's just kind of more of a preventative and safety precaution.
Richard and I have been checking the library periodically.
Okay. And lastly, my next report is the North Kingstown Preserve at Rolling Greens. They did have a public hearing back in August, which was then continued. And then at the end of that public hearing, they voted 3-2 to implement the new ordinance on the development. So it's a 95% residential, 5% commercial, non-residential. That's the update on that. And you are 5% commercial / non-residential.
Right, one quick thing, you had 2 correspondents you didn't talk about, but they were directed towards Lynn and myself. One was the initial correspondence, 23, and then 39 goes from the Office of Solarize Rhode Island. Office of Energy Resources, they requested a meeting with Town Council to talk about the energy, the infrastructure bank, and how it may benefit the town and the town residents. So I need to respond to this, there are 2 emails sent to both of us, Ireland has to respond. So I know we have a full agenda on the council plate for the next month or so. So we try to put them off until maybe November, or just have them meet with somebody in town hall. Kind of present. How's that sound? So it sounds like you want to have a meeting itself.
Jim, solicitor's report?
As you might have seen, and you heard tonight, spent a lot of time on Gardner Road, just so that we were sure of what we were doing, and happy to report that firmly convinced that what we did tonight was the right thing, pursuant to the law. So, and I think that Richmond solicitor and all agrees with that as well. I want to thank Steve for taking the time to show me the physical layout, because it's very important, believe it or not. If there's ever a challenge to this that we can prove and quickly prove that Gardner Road is a public highway. That sets the stage for everything else that's done. And Steve spent the morning with me going through the area showing me the stone walls, matched up the stuff that I had found from my initial investigation. Patty's still working on trying to get me some more information out of the old deeds. And so, we're in pretty good shape. There was a new zoning enforcement matter that came up. Isherwood, this gentleman who was putting in a foundation despite the fact that he was specifically denied the right in front of the zoning board before zoning board hearing. So it was a situation where Hal requested that we move quickly to issue another enforcement matter. I could only consult with Kevin under those circumstances because it needed to be done quickly and he approved. So I'm not sure whether I sent a copy of the complaint there.
I got it.
Is it in litigation?
Yes, we started. So, and I tried to get a hold of Steve Seipo, who's going to handle it, he's the zoning man. But he was not in before I left the meeting, so I'll update you if there's anything new on that. But yes, he's been served, and the action is brought, and we're moving along on that one. The only other thing that I think you need to know about is Judge Leach, who now has control of the Arcadia Browning Mill Pond matter, has requested that we slightly change the schedule that he set about a month ago. As you recall, the state has to put in their brief in opposition to our motion, which was to require them to put in their zoning motion. That's due at the end of this month. We then have a couple of weeks to respond to it in a reply brief. And the judge was going to have a hearing, I believe it was set for November 16th, he changed it to the 20th, to change. But there will be a hearing on that. Judge Leach he's a judge who, when he says he's going to do something, it's done. And so he's going to have the hearing then, and he's promised to get a decision out, a written decision, in December. So I think we're going to have, I expect to have something concrete before the end of this year. That's about it. The court hearing, yes, which will be the oral arguments. Number 20.
Moving on, number 20, the bills, appropriations, abatements. A, the bill sheet.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
One second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
B, tax assessors abatements.
Move to approve the amount of $919.39.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And finally, the tax collectors remittances and abatements.
I can read it for you if you'd like, Mr. President. Oh.
Read all the pages.
You want to do this?
Well, I was gonna mention that. There were 3 abatements totaling $164.18. Also including the previous abatement of $56,136.44, which has already been approved by the council.
Okay.
For the motor vehicle. Yeah, that was,
Approving it tonight.
I thought that was
Were you
approved at the last
correct?
meeting, wasn't it?
No.
Is that the special meeting?
Yes.
$56,136 is a remittance.
Right, but
That
that's,
has to be approved tonight, and
Right.
the abatements are 164 hours.
That was, people that are
Yeah.
No, I had my time screwed up. I was on my way here at 6:45.
no, it was earlier. But no, these are the result of, these are the result of the vote that we took on the 21st, or whatever that day was. So as a result of that vote, these now are the remittances.
These are mainly the people that had paid the full.
These are the ones that
They're
owed
owed
it
money.
before. So they're
What
owed
you
money,
approved
but
was
they
to,
already paid.
redo the whole.
I thought that was already approved at the last meeting.
Mm.
I apologize.
That's all right, no, you're fine.
Okay.
So include both.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any other administrative issues? Hearing none, we'll move on to communications. First, we have number 14, which is a letter from Bill Rivera, Commissioner of the Exeter Fire District.
Already been addressed.
Previously addressed. Next, we have number 18, which is from Exeter Town Planner, actually, proposed changes to the Community Development Block Grant.
I just pointed out, I just wanted to point out that there was obviously follow-up to that discussion we had. I'm not sure it amounted to a lot, except that they have agreed to some modifications, but I'm not sure how significant they are. But we've seen that. I think there's still genuine concern, but that's the only thing. You know, we took action and whatever that's worth. And the other two,
Previously discussed.
right, so it's all for me.
So continuing on, executive session, does anybody have anything for executive sessions?
I have something about the executive session, other personnel issues.
Okay, so, I'll make a motion that we enter into executive session under B, labor issues, labor relations.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.